We are ready to rock. So 3, 2, 1, go. Man, I even got my chocolate milk here ready to go.
Oh, look at you go.
Did you make the chocolate milk yourself?
No, I go to Costco and get the good stuff. This tastes
So
like
do you
melted
know
chocolate
how,
ice cream.
Do you know how they choose which milk to make into chocolate milk?
Probably from the brown cows.
No, it's from the cows that have such. It's from the cows that have such bloody milk and discolored that it won't bleach white, so they just make it into chocolate. That's why it's always a little creamier too. Like
That's from the Jersey cows. That's from the Jersey cows.
Drinking the pussy
milk.
bloody milk. The fucking the sick
Nah,
milk.
this one's like organic and stuff. It's good.
Hey, blood's pretty organic.
I don't mind. I just had a juicy rare steak, so I'm all for it.
There you go. All right,
Yeah.
everybody. Welcome to another episode of Forging Brains podcast. I'm your host, Riley Patrick. My co-host, Gavin Cooper. Today we got a cool guest. This guy, his name's been pretty much all over for a while now. Stan Mullins. He's been winning some stuff. You might have heard of him.
Quite a bit of
Maybe.
stuff.
Yeah. Thanks
Yeah,
for
I've been
joining
pretty
us,
lucky.
Stan.
No worries. Yeah, it's good to be on here.
So I thought it was funny. I've been meaning to ask you, like, do you claim yourself as an American or New Zealand still?
Well, it's funny that because Christine asked me if I wanted to fly the New Zealand flag or the American flag at Spruce.
That's why
And
I was asking.
I was like, I'm a permanent resident of America. I'm on a American national shoeing team, which is like cool. Not yet a citizen. So I still bleed New Zealand, you know what I mean? It's one of those things. Like even Andy Reeder, he's flying the New Zealand flag and he's lived in England for, I don't know, 30 years. Maybe.
Yep.
So it's one of those things that it's a hard question. Like I've got 2 American flags on my property. Like I would say I'm about as American as it gets, but
Yeah.
I'm still a proud Kiwi,
Yeah, because I mean, how you were 17 when you came over here the first time?
Well, it's 16 when I
16.
first got over here,
Yeah, and that was when you came over to go to school in Kentucky, right?
yeah. Kentucky horseshoeing school. They let a little immigrant come in, go to their program.
Well, and how old are you now?
Shoot, that was 10 years ago, so I'm 26.
Shit.
Man,
Yeah.
it seems a lot longer than 10 years ago, at least to me. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Time flies.
time always throws me out.
I feel like I've done a good amount in 10 years, and then every now and then I feel bad for myself, like, man, maybe I should be further, you know what I mean? But
When you got a Troy Woods on your team and he's 3 years in, you're like,
yeah,
okay.
that's such a hard thing, you know what I mean? And it's good things and bad things for coming like forward so fast. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, when I was in 2017, I was 3 years in and I was placing, I was tying with Tom Peterson at, 2017 Vegas for a WCB. Coming second in Sheridan 2017 and the individual class, I think that was. So like it's a hard thing to say, like, it's one of those things of like there's always one person that's gonna be like Troy Wood or like
Yeah.
Dylan or me. Like it's a funny thing that like, and it's cool that Troy's on the team because he's gonna be like a freaking badass in 5 years if he sticks with it. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like, not saying he's not gonna stick with it, but like
Right.
you never know. Some people kind of come on real heavy and then peter off a little bit. So it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see if how long he like keeps up with the top level. Keep on going because a lot of guys like there's not too many people like Chris Madrid that like bash it for freaking 15 years.
Yep.
I mean, that's just
hard
what
to-
it
It's
is.
really hard.
Hard to gauge your own success against other people's success as well, where they're at in their stage of their career.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of those, and like, it was funny because like I've kind of stunted myself in ways where I moved back to New Zealand for a couple years from I was there for 2018 and 2019, so that kind of like not necessarily halted my progress, but it changed things. You know what I mean? You go away, you're not in the routine of competing 5 times a year minimum. You'll show up to local contests in New Zealand and whatnot like that, but it's like it's different, you know. And obviously, I went to Stoneleigh in 2019, which was badass. I mean, that was cool because it's been a while since I've been to Stoneleigh, but it'd be cool to be able to get over there again, maybe on the AFT, which I thankfully just found out that I can go on to because I am a permanent resident. So they allow that, so that's a goal. But yeah, it's one of those things. Like, I spent 2 years back home, and then I've been here back for 3 years.
Did you have to go back for like visa reasons?
Yeah. Like, it's not a very easy thing. Like, it's kind of one of those. It's the worst thing about coming over here is the immigration side of things. Is it's just tough.
Not as easy as jumping the border.
No, and everyone wants to say, you just marry somebody and you're good. But it's not even that easy, like it's one of those things. But yeah.
What all did you have to do to get, like, if you don't like mind going through, like, what did you have to do?
Oh, so, well, I picked out a pretty beautiful lady, so that was one of the parts to it. She said, come on back and I'll kind of sponsor you a little green card. So we got married. So when I'll start back from the start. So back in end of 2017, I left 2017 December. Hell, she was still in high school. So I was younger, she was younger. You know what I mean? Where it was just that awkward stage of like, where do you go from here? So
yeah.
I went back home for a couple of years, got some crap sorted out, saved some money. And then moved back over. We got married in 2020 and then applied for the green card through marital status. Spent $7,500 applying for that. And then
holy shit.
That took about 6 to 8 months to go through. And then we went in for an interview, passed with flying colours. That was the easiest test I've ever done. But it was kind of cool because the guy was like a ex-interrogator for the military, and like he'd been on the border for like 5 years, and he just moved to Louisville. So he was like, yeah, I pretty much know you're telling the truth as soon as you open your mouth. And I'm like, oh, luckily we're telling the truth.
Yeah.
So we jumped through there, flying colours, and then they gave us 2.5 years because we weren't married for 2 years before we went for the green card. So then they gave us the 2.5 years or 2 years or something, and we had to reapply to take the conditions off to get the full 10 years out of the green card. So we paid another $3,500 there. So now we're a little over 10 grand in, and we're still waiting on like finalizing that 10-year visa or green card.
So when you fly over and they ask you at the the customs booth, and they're like, "What are you coming here for?" You're like, "To marry a lady."
Well, that would be a quick way to
like,
not to
or you're
come
just
in.
like, "I'm going on vacation."
No, so I come in on I had a extraordinary ability visa that was expiring within 3 months of me getting in here. So I come in on a visa that would allow me to change it to a green card. You can't even change a green card or a normal visa to a green card or a travel visa to a green card. You have to leave the country to do that. So my visa allowed me to change it to a green card while in the States.
Because it was expiring?
No, just because of the level of the visa, it allows you to like swap it over to a green card.
It was a visa that lasts longer then?
Yeah, it was a 3-year visa.
they're like 3 years. The likelihood of you meeting somebody and wanting to stay here is pretty high. So we'll just have
That's
that
one of
in
those
there.
things. Yeah.
They're like, this happens all the time.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how expensive it was.
Yeah. No, it's not the cheapest thing I've
Well,
ever done.
is it like really? Is it fees that the government charges you, or is it like attorney fees?
Well, I did hire a really, really good lawyer, and that helps, obviously, because, like, you can do it yourself, but if you mess it up, you have to reapply. And every time you reapply, it's $600.
I see.
So if you mess up one word, 2 words, you know what I mean, you're reapplying. So I might have paid maybe even, like doubled my fees, but there was never a question. My lawyer also did Nigel Fennell, is doing Matt Fendler as well. So, like,
This guy, he's just known in the horse. Like, do you want to go to America? I got a guy.
Yeah.
I got a
So-
guy.
So, do you get like a little commission off of him? Like every person you send to him,
what?
get a little kickback?
She's actually, she's a she, but
Okay.
she's a niece of Sarah Taylor at the shoeing school. So she hooked me up early on with that. I got my extraordinary ability visa through her, and then Sarah passed it to Nigel. Then I passed it to Matt. Matt was having a hard time, and yeah, she helped him out within a week. So there's it's a good thing to have good lawyers and people that actually know what they're doing. I'm quite a firm believer on like supporting trades too. Like, I mean, yeah, it's just one of those things. If she knows what she's doing, I'm going to pay her to do it.
Yeah, that's how you make your money.
Yeah, I might as well go shoot horses and she can fill out the paperwork.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
I didn't obviously finish high school, so.
You didn't. You left before finishing. I was just thinking you finished early. I was like,
Yeah, well, I
overachiever.
I was put up in I skipped year 2, so I did technically 11 years. So I guess, yeah, I was young anyway. Then I left. You could leave when you were 16. I was in my last year. I stayed for athletics day and school camp and did all the fun things and then got out of there.
What made you want to come to America? Like or be a horse? Like, I knew you grew up with horses, so like the horseshoeing part makes some sense, but like, why go to America to do it?
Well, it was my parents own a horse breeding farm, sport horses over in New Zealand. They got about 50 horses between warm bloods and little Connemara ponies, one of the best ponies in the world. So they have like 50 horses there. So they were like, it wasn't really their idea. Our farrier was actually just needing help. So I went and helped him through the weekend and went to the West Coast and shopped with him. His name's Ross Smith, and then he ended up moving to Australia. So then we lost our horseshoer, and then it just becomes harder and harder when you lose horseshoers in an area to get another one back. You know what I mean? My dad always trimmed our mob, but we always had a farrier shoe them.
Did you call it a mop?
Mob
Mob?
of horses. Yeah,
A mob of horses.
yeah, like a
That's
herd,
fitting.
but a mob. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like,
Trim the mob.
yeah, big gangsters, So they always did that. So I started shoeing when I was like, clinching and finishing when I was like 15, maybe 14, 15. And then it just became hard to get a farrier, and I was kind of enjoying it, you know what I mean? And my guy left, and then he hooked me up with a couple other locals. So then I continued down that path of trying to find, what's my next step. So I just couldn't, it was hard to, apprenticeship is one of those things. It's like, unless you're with the right guy, you're really just making the money. And if you don't really see their face till the end of the day on the way home, then you're not really learning anything. You're just figuring stuff out on your own. And I don't necessarily think that that's like the best way to learn. So I decided to, trying to locate a good place to go. And England was obviously high on the list, and then I found out America's got a bunch of schools. Australia has had nothing at the time. I think there's one or two over there now, but they didn't have anything over there. So it was either 4 years in England or move to America, and then I picked the longest one I could because obviously, time is inevitable. You're going to learn more and more time. It's just inevitable. Right. So I picked the longest course, obviously up in Kentucky, 9 months. I got recommended that also by Rodney King. He used to work at Root and Brittle here in Lexington, and he moved back to New Zealand probably early, teens, like 2011, 2012 or something like that. So he recommended coming over to Kentucky because it had the same hoof structure, like the same breeds, like a lot of thoroughbreds and stuff that we would normally see in New Zealand. Mm-hmm. Like Oklahoma, we don't really have quarter horses, so there's no point going to Oklahoma and shoeing quarter horses. Yeah. We don't have them, so there's no point doing that.
You think if the school in Walla Walla was still around, it was a 2-year program, you think you would have picked that because it was 2 years?
Yeah, it's funny, like, every time I Googled horseshoeing school, you find a different freaking horseshoeing school. So every then time. You're like, you read another horseshoeing school, you're like, and I was like, so I was bound and determined I was going to Oklahoma, you know what I mean? And then, like, I swear, like, 2 weeks before I, like, pulled the plug on school and did that, like, I looked up, there's Kentucky horseshoeing school, and I think Rodney helped me with that. But, like, yeah, I didn't even know about Walla Walla. I heard a podcast of you talking about you went to a Walla Walla or whatever, and I was like, well, where the hell is Walla Walla? You know what I mean? So, like, I didn't even know about it. And, like, you always hear of, like, new ones popping up, and it's just So I suppose it's kind of one of those things. Maybe.
In 2017, I think it was still around, so that's when you went to school over here, yeah.
2014.
14. Yeah. Oh, so it was definitely still around then. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, maybe I come over here. Yeah, it was 10 years ago, but it was 2014. So, yeah.
It's so funny sometimes, like, when you talk to people of what a simple thing it came down to for them to choose that shoeing school that they're going to go to.
Yeah.
It's like, it comes down, like, I called Kentucky and I called Heartland, and Chris called me back first.
Yeah.
That's what it came down. It's just like, well, I guess I'm going here. Like, for you, it was just simple enough. Like, oh, well, this one seems the longest, and this guy recommended it. I'm gonna head this way.
Yeah, and I probably might have it's one of those things. I probably would have come and visited the schools before, moving over here and making that decision if I lived over here. But like, it's one of those.
So tough.
It's a long journey. So like. It was actually a funny story when I first moved over here because I was 16. You can't even you can't rent a car. You can't book a hotel room by yourself. So I actually flew over here. Never been out of the country by myself. So I flew over here by myself, obviously, and I flew into LA and I had like a night off. So I got a shuttle, went to my hotel. And it was the only hotel in like the area that would accept like cash for the room because no other nice hotels would take a 16-year-old kid. So I went to this dodgy ass area.
They rent it by the hour.
Yeah. Like the door had been kicked in 3 times. I sent Mum a picture of my door and she's like, "Oh my God, is that your room?" And I was like, "Yep." Wi-Fi wasn't working. I couldn't contact anyone, so I walked all the way down to this Walmart, brought a phone, put some money on it, and called home. Said, "Hey, I made it."
Shit.
You
looked like such a trafficker at this point. You just came over out of country, went to the fucking worst hotel. They probably had the jug of lotion and like a bowl of condoms on the nightstand. No Bible. And then you went and bought a track phone as soon as you got
burner.
Here. Yeah, you went and bought a burner.
Yeah, it was funny though because I went out. I went down to McDonald's. I come back to the hotel. I went out again right as it was turning like dusk, and this black guy stopped me as I was like halfway down the road, and he said, "Son, you better go back to your room." or wherever you came from. And I said, what do you mean? He go, I'm just going down here to have a look. He said, no, I don't think you understand. You need to go back to where you came from. As soon as these lights turn on, you're ours, kind of thing. And I was looking at these guys sitting on the hood of this, Impala, and I'm like, maybe he's right. So I hightailed it back to the room and,
oh my
tucked
God.
in for the night. It was fun.
It was fun. It was a great time.
Yeah.
Eye-opening experience there.
So
Yeah.
This is America. This is great.
Yeah. Kind of like a movie, We're about to get jumped. What's that?
Yeah.
21 Jump Street?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, straight out of Compton.
Like, I remember talking to Andy Reader-Smith, and he's told me that, like, New Zealand's kind of like America's little sister anyways. He says, like, everybody, like, for the majority, like, New Zealand likes wearing American styles, like big trucks and hot rods and cowboy stuff.
Yeah, fun fact for everyone. New Zealand has the highest muscle car per capita of anyone in the world. So,
Really?
yeah. Yep.
Okay, but is there like 5,000 of them because there's just 1,000 people?
Is
No. That why? Is there
I
just
would
nobody
say
there?
I would say more. There's 4.6 million people there.
Okay,
But so even if you said every 1 in 5 person had a muscle car, so that means like every 10 cars you see on the road, you could see a muscle car. So
Are cars in New Zealand, are they right-hand drive or left-hand drive like here?
Yeah, right-hand drive.
Oh, so the muscle cars, are they left-hand drive or they?
Yeah.
Oh, so they've been imported.
Yeah, anything 20 years or older is called a classic, so you can leave it left-hand drive. All the muscle cars that come from Australia, like the GT, whatever, there's some
Like a Mustang or something.
No, they were. I can't even remember what they were called. I mean, off the top of my head. But Australia made a few muscle cars, like the Falcons and stuff, they made. So they were all right-hand drive, and every now and then you'll see them, and they're worth upwards of 150, 200,000 now because they're all crushed or written off from doing stupid stuff. So everyone then had to import the American cars. So. Yeah, it was actually kind of funny because my grandfather's just got into collecting muscle cars, and he's probably got 15 or 20 old American muscle cars
nice.
and stuff. He's got F-150 Lightning and stuff like that he commutes with. So that's kind of funny.
You got any muscle cars yourself?
No, I don't have any money.
Old, though.
I think they're 20 years old, right?
20 years old, yeah.
Man, I guess I think my truck's almost 20 years old.
Yeah, 2 years it'll be 20 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was classic.
Yeah, but the funny rule, I had a Super Duty, 05 Super Duty over there, but if over 4.5 ton or whatever, you have to convert it because of the possibility of you hauling weight with it is scarier if you're driving on the wrong side of the road.
Yeah.
Because in order to pass with the left-hand drive car in New Zealand, you either have to have a passenger or you have to look on the outside of the car, look around from the outside to pass. So it's kind of one of those sketchy things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it a hard adjustment going from driving on the right side when you came to the United States?
Well, to be honest, I only had my license for a year, so.
Oh, yeah. Well, that
but
makes sense.
I grew up driving stick left hand, you know what I mean, shifting with the left hand. So that was probably the biggest thing. I jumped in a manual and the guy was like, "This is your first time driving?" I'm like, "Yeah." He said, "You can drive manual, right?" I'm like, "Hell yeah." I get in, I shift from fifth to freaking third or something. I completely go, just didn't have the feeling for it, you know what I mean? It just
backwards.
Yeah, it was just weird. So
just forced it. Just
Yeah.
this is gonna happen.
yeah, freaking going 60 now. Yeah, I think I went fourth to third rather than fifth. Yeah, going onto the highway for the first time.
Bring on the power.
Yeah, lucky it was a light truck because it locked up the wheels.
Did you have this image in your head of what America was gonna be like? And
Yeah,
was
it didn't
that just,
really disappoint.
What's up, guys? Going to take a little minute, talk about some of our sponsors for the show. One of the largest ferry supply stores in the world is stepping up for Forging Brains podcast to help you guys by sending you on your way with a cool gift when you use the code BRAINS at checkout. Wellshod carries so many different supplies throughout their warehouse that honestly we could probably do a whole podcast just talking about all the different supplies, tools, anvils, all sorts of products that they carry throughout their warehouse. It's insane. If you guys haven't been there, you should put it on the list to go check them out, just to go see them, but also to go buy some stuff too. Their recent products they've been making in-house is anvils. They're producing the Scott anvils as well as the new Scott Eden's 200-pound anvil. I believe they've also been doing the Cliff Carroll anvils for some time as well. And John Harshbarger talked about that in his episode previously on Forging Brains podcast. So when you guys go to order with Wellshod, either online or on the telephone, use code BRAINS, and they'll hook you up with a free product in your order. Little surprise gift. We're happy to be working with Wellshod because they are invested in this trade, the same as the rest of us, and not just there for profits and money. Plus, I don't know how you can beat that $10 flat shipping they always have. Like, that's insane. Can't get a better deal than that. So either call them up on the telephone or go online at www.wellshod.com. And when you go to checkout on your order, use the code BRAINS, and they'll hook you up with something cool in your order. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about working with Wellshod. This is going to be great. Let's take a minute and talk about another one of our sponsors, Farrier Box. I know you guys probably don't need that Christmas morning feel in the middle of the summer no more, but let's talk about how the subscription-based service sets you up with the best of the best products each time you receive their box. Everything they send out is tested and used by elite farriers, so it gets that stamp of approval every time it reaches your doorstep. I don't think there's anything else going on out there in the farrier world that's quite like Farrier Box at the moment. So when you can get products each month, every other month, I guess, that you're on the fence about getting, they'll send it to you and you'll have it at your disposal. Plus, you know, it's going to be handy stuff. So stuff that you're going to use. There's not something I've had that I haven't used yet. But to get a discount, use code BRAINS for 25% off your first month's order. And that's a pretty good deal if you ask me. Let's get back to it.
I was going to say, was that just crushed that first night in LA?
No, I think that was like legit. Like, all right. I mean, I've watched the movies. You know what I mean? Like, I've seen all this kind of gangster stuff. Like, you know, I think I'm a 16-year-old, you know, little punk kid that just kind of sees some stuff. But yes. No, I think America's definitely exceeded expectations. Like, you know, like, it was funny because, like I said, my wife was in high school when I was like first over here, you know, and like when we got together she was still in high school, so I went to like the football games in high school and like the marching band and stuff like that. So it was kind of classic because you see that on the movies, and then you come over here and you're like sitting there like, this would have been epic if I was a kid, you know what I mean? Like, if I grew up with this stuff, I feel like it would have been like pretty badass.
Friday Night Lights, man. Like,
yeah, like, I don't know, it's just cool.
You were going. Even if you didn't play on the football teams, it was still an event. Like,
yeah, I always showed up with my leather jacket on.
Is rugby the sport over in New Zealand then?
Yeah. I played rugby I always rode horses, you know what I mean? So I played rugby for my school, and then we had club rugby on the weekends. So every Wednesday we would play rugby in town, and we'd play like the local high schools or whatnot. So it would normally get through the winter, I believe that was. And then I rode horses on the weekends. And then all my buddies kind of called me out. They're like, "Oh, you're pretty good, you know, come out and play on the weekends." And I'm like, well, you know, it's hard to do everything. You got Tuesday, Thursday practice for rugby, and you ride every day of the week to go to the horse show on Sunday, and then you go to play rugby on Saturday. So I was kind of like, it's a lot, you know, and it ended up doing it for a couple of years before I moved. But yeah, rugby was a big thing. Yeah.
Because what type of horse? You said you guys had warm bloods, so like what type of showing were you doing with them?
3-day eventing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And did your family was going to all the shows anyways too? So it wasn't like they were hauling to the shows just to haul you there.
No, I had 2 sisters that did it too. I think most of the time, like in my later years before I moved over here, I had 2 horses going. So we normally had 5 horses going every Sunday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
That's a herd. That's a mob.
It's a mob. Yeah. Yeah. It was it was a good lifestyle. We kept busy and late nights and kind of developed work ethic a little early on.
Do you foresee yourself still wanting to go to event shows and showing over here in the U.S.?
No.
No.
No, I don't.
That's it.
It was funny because, like, I like to be decent at anything I do, but like, I like to be good at the 3-day eventing, and I think you have to put too much time into one thing to be good at it. So, like, I'm not a half-asser, so it's hard to say I don't want to do it right now because I don't have the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just one of those things that, like, if you can't do it properly, then like just don't do it. I don't think that's just me.
Then you could be like all the horse owners.
Yeah, if you're gonna do 3-day eventing for real, you can't shoe horses even.
Well, yeah, it's and like America's different because like we could go to every weekend we could be at one and not drive 45 to an hour away from my house, through the winter. No, you couldn't do that over here. You'd have 2 events in Lexington, maybe 3, and then you got to go where? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Don't really follow it, but it's just like one of those things. But you got to have a bunch of money too, and like I just paid $10,000 for a green card just to be here. So
yeah, don't got more money for horses at that point.
Yeah,
you gotta go to work, man.
gotta go to work.
Gotta stay under those horses.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe one day I'd like to get back into it. Maybe.
So you went from LA and then the next day headed to Kentucky then, huh?
Yeah. We got picked up in Lexington, and I think I had a couple days to acclimatize. I think I woke up the next day at like 3 in the afternoon, and Mitch Taylor was on the roof cleaning out gutters in his underwear because he said he had more traction with his bare skin on the roof than jeans. So that was kind of a funny, good experience.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, it's
jeans are slippery. Huh?
Jeans are slippery. So if you lay down on your side cleaning gutters, then you might as well,
God dang.
Some shorts would be okay.
What's the difference between shorts and undies?
About
Not
3
much.
inches. About 3 inches and one more layer of protection.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even care for everybody else's protection. I was thinking for my own protection.
Yeah, you're right.
So did you guys drive all the way from L.A. to Kentucky then?
No.
Or did you fly from there?
I couldn't rent a car, so I had to fly.
Oh, you had to fly? Yeah.
It's pretty far.
It's a 3-day drive.
Yeah, it's a chunk there.
Yeah, 3 days full-time drive, probably.
Yeah.
So then, like, had you done any foraging before you went to school?
My one mentor, most of the guys I worked with after my first guy, Ross, was cold shoeing, like standardbreds and stuff. So Ross would hot shoe, and he had me flatten shoes. I think he had me like, I can't remember if he ever had me like do anything crazy. I think it was just level out a shoe every now and then, or I don't think I really got into much of anything. I shaped a couple shoes to a horse, like I shod my own horse a couple times, because why wouldn't you, might as well cripple the thing. But no, that's when I really realized that I just need to head somewhere, learn.
Did you instantly fall in love with the foraging at school?
I did a lot of it. I'm kind of a good like copycat. Like if you show me something, I'll go work on it until it looks right. My problem is like I can't really not make it look right. Like it has to like, if it's going south, like I'll just not necessarily abandon shit, but like if you show me I don't know, like a heel and it's not, this doesn't look right, then I'll keep making until it looks right. So like that's one of those things that I don't understand a lot of times when people don't see, like, well, clearly it doesn't look the same, so why why not make it look the same? Like it's just funny. But yeah, so like I did enjoy forging quite a lot. Like it's a kind of it's that challenge. I think I like a challenge. Yeah.
So it didn't necessarily come easy to you though. You could see it, but like still everybody when they first start forging is like you're fumbling with the tongs, the hammers and stuff like that.
That's a hard thing for me to say. Like, I would say I did have quite a natural start. I've heard people show me something, I'll go do it for the first time, coming back, and they'll be like, well, that's better than what I showed you. Like,
Yeah.
Like, oh, sorry. Like I kind of, like, I'll say this, and I don't want to be too down this track, but like, I started shoeing school. There was me and another guy. He ended up quitting after 2 weeks. And I finished the first 12 weeks in 6 weeks. And then I moved to into the next class. And I'd finished that curriculum in 6 weeks of the middle semester. And so I was when I started my, my second track of 12 weeks or whatever, I was in the advanced semester. So I graduated the 9 months in 6 months. And they had to do an extra curriculum for me that they'd never done. So I basically did 3 months extra on top of the normal 9-month program that they just
outside of that
customized
curriculum
to me. So I did my passing examination. I think I did a 3-hour go, 3/4 full all the way around on a horse.
Was this at the 6-month mark or at the end of the 9-month?
This was at the end of the 9. So normally it's plain stamp. I think it was plain stamp hinds and 3/4 fronts, and I don't know. That was just a completely customized thing for me. And I think 2 other guys stayed back with me to do an extra 3 months because they wanted to. They're like, oh shoot, he's getting extra. We'll just pay a little bit more, and then we'll get extra with him. So that was kind of cool. So I wasn't like completely alone doing that kind of crap.
Dang, overachiever.
Was Sam good in your teacher through most of it?
Yeah, he was. Yep, learned a lot.
Yeah, super handy guy. He's easy to learn from. Like,
it's a very good teacher.
Do you think that had a lot to do with it then, of like how simple it was for you to like move on? Because Sam was just easy to feed off of, and Sam's able to show you things.
Good teacher.
Like, that's what I say. Like, every now and then I would just be alone because I was the only one in my class. So he would go bugger off to the middle guys because it's like beginner, middle, advanced. So he would just go spend the day with the middle guys and like leave me in the back corner, which is sweet for me because you give me something, I'll work on it. He'd give me something else, I'll go work on it. Like it's just, I just figure out stuff that way. So I guess it worked for both of us because I wasn't, in the way. Just working on my own stuff.
Do you think that still kind of transpires in your shoemaking to this day? Like, if you kind of having like a hard time understanding something, do you kind of want somebody to show you it, or are you just able to figure that out now since you're kind of at where you're at?
That's a funny thing because we're working at the Spruce shoes right now, and that weird thing of like using imperial or
the
metric steel versus imperial, making a roadster out of 14 1/4 inches, and you're like, this doesn't look anything like the shoe, you know what I mean? So then you're just like, you're throwing bar stock down on the ground like, this does just not look right. This does not look right. You start cutting some off and you're like, all right, there, I can see it now. You know what I mean? But it's just like, I guess it is fun. Like I went out to Dillon's this last weekend and we went a few runs and made a bunch of shoes. And you go through that learning stage of the shoes, but I do say if I just sit in the forge for, this past week I haven't worked at all. I worked Monday, I shot like 7 head, and then, I had every other day off. So I just sat in the forge. Well, not all day because it was freaking hot, but I'd get up and I'd make all the shoes in the morning. So I'd make 8 shoes in the morning, and then I would pick out the worst ones and I'd make them in the evening when it cooled off a bit. And I just go through the shoes and pick them out. What are my worst ones? So I kind of focus on the nice, easy ones at the start. It boosts up your confidence, and then you jump into the ugly ones. You work on them for a while, and then you get back to the easy ones, turn everything up together. That's kind of how I do that. But it's just one of those things of just kind of, no one's going to show me, no one's going to be help me do something if I can't see it. You have to be able to see it before you can do it. So it's one of those things of like, sometimes you got to like embrace the suck until you kind of see where you're going, and then you're like, okay. And obviously tips and tricks along the way, like don't do that, don't do this, is super awesome, but
a lot of things will transpire.
It sounds like you've always been able to see things. Like, so when you look at a specimen list, you're like, okay, this is what it all looks like. But obviously there's still times like where you're saying it's like you just hit those moments you're like, for some reason this isn't coming out, or that it's like I'm not doing the right move here, like it's not in the right spot, or I didn't do like enough in this early stage for this late stage.
Yeah.
And so is it easy to be in the shop because it's not like there's not a lot of frustration there, you just have to work on it, huh?
Yeah, I don't really get mad much, you know what I mean? It's just one of those things, like, what did I do today that was silly? I've got so many boomerangs sitting on my floor right now where, like, I'll be making a wedge on a shoe, and I'm like, didn't quite flip up enough. And you're only 3 heats in, so it's like, this is going to ruin the whole shoe. If I can't get past this stage, then why would I move on? You know what I mean? Like, I could learn something by continuing, but what am I learning? Am I learning something bad or good? That's one of those things where I have to, like, decide on, like, do I terminate this project now because I'm probably just going to ingrain something that's not right anyway? Or do I keep going?
Just restart and focus on making it better from the beginning?
Yeah, it's like having a bad bump, you know what I mean? Like, the worst thing you can do in a go is quench off your steel in a horrible way and be like, I'll fix it later.
Because it doesn't happen.
What? Why would you do that? Like, how about you just put it in the fire for 20 seconds, reheat it up, quench it, and you'll probably save yourself at least a minute trying to fix that later on.
Yeah.
Or never fix it at all.
Oh, you will never fix it, no. Bad bump's a bad bump.
Yeah, it's like it'll just never get fixed. Like I was that guy for like where I just like I would make toe bends and like, well, I'll just fix it later. It's like, you won't.
Yeah.
You won't. If you do fix a toe, you're fucking something else up. Like, it's gonna look like shit.
Yeah.
Chasing your tail.
And it's funny because, like, sometimes in the moment you're just like, you don't even see things that you should be seeing. And that's why I think the basics are so important, because if you don't have to think about it, you do it. So if you ingrain the basics, then it kind of makes everything easier.
So what are the basics to you?
I think I struggle with this a lot, and like I've gone back and forth on things, and different judges are different. One of those things of like, I'm a front foot. That's what I've been on for the last wee while, especially on the team. They just set me up there to struggle. So, like, front feet have the most distortion, changes, effects. They have the most differences. Like, there's no argument. Hinds don't have as many things. It's either the bends up here or the bends down there in the hinds. It's just it is what it is. Fronts, you know, I mean, they got so many more things going on.
More shapes and opinions.
Yeah, like the conformational problems that, because, you know, like a hind limb, there's only so much you can do. It's connected by bone, where a front's not connected by bone, so it could be so many different ways. So, like, you know, you get a slightly higher foot that's, you know, it wants all the outside taken off of it. And once you take all the outside off, then your point of heel is way further back in the foot. Your medial is way pushed forward. Your toes pushed up with that heel. And then you got such an ugly shape, but it's balanced. And it stands on it nicely. Then you build a shoe to it, and it's ugly. You know what I mean? And it's like... So, like, my hard thing right now is how far do I push this each way of good horseshoeing and aesthetically pleasing, and trying to hit both parameters. So, like, I don't know, like, my biggest thing is, like, in the box shoeing right now, which is, like, toenails dissecting heels, center of heels, same widths from apex of the frog to the toenail on the outside to the inside, all those things that we consider in the box shoeing is kind of what I've been focusing on at the moment. And it's like, yeah, it's a hard one.
When you say apex of the frog for the toenails, are you measuring the length of your frog and then calipering for your toenails there, or did I misinterpret that wrong?
Just the length from the apex to the medial toenail to the lateral toenail to make sure that it's kind of even.
Mm-hmm.
Aesthetically pleasing, I would say.
Easier to fit, too. Like,
yeah.
It is. Like, if you can just put your heels, if you build your shoe right and you put your heels under, like, you see the shoes all the time, the guys build and their heels aren't underneath their toenails. It's like,
yeah, it's like, it's not going to go on a foot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just the same thing as the toenails dissecting the bottom of the web of the toe. And it's like, oh, well, your toenails are too far back, when it's maybe your toe's too thick. You know what I mean? Like, if your toe's punched inside your toe from the heels coming up, then your toe's too thick. So that's like the easiest way to do stock dimensions, you know what I mean? Like, if you map a foot out, you draw it up from your buttress and you draw a line across that. You measure from the outside of your toe to the bottom of that line, and you got your stock chosen for you.
That's a good tip.
Yeah.
Really good tip.
I hadn't heard that one before.
Because it is hard when you're making some shoes where you're like, man, this toe seems very wide, and I feel like I'm floating out here.
Yeah.
You know, like, you don't know where to put them. And if you do put them, you got a big old toe in there, and you put them all the way back, it's like, it doesn't look very, very good.
No.
I'm
There's...
guilty of that.
North Carolina, huh?
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to put a toe in here. It's like,
Yeah,
ooh, that
fucking
wasn't
toe.
good.
Don't worry about the clip.
Yeah, it's in there, but it's not very, that's not right.
Yeah, I think Craig said it the best, like, Beanie's one of the guys that just, enforced a freaking nice, sweet toe. And then, it can go here or there from that. It's just like Chinese whispers, But, like, I think Craig said it the best, is that your toenail on your lateral side wants to be the same as your heel. And if it's less or more, then it's either a toe weight, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, it is what it is. I think, like, everyone's going to get maybe, I don't know about a shock, but I think Spruce is going to be pretty basic, like nice flowing sections, parallel lines, all that stuff, like we got two amazing horseshoers going to judge us, so it's I think all the fancy bollocks is going to get put aside pretty quick.
Well,
yeah.
And I think it's going to be pretty basic because they're judging shoes that they didn't make. You just you just got to make the specimens. And
that's the
right.
And they're looking at they're looking at these specimens with no defense with them.
Yeah.
Like, you've judged something, you've made the specimen, and someone coming up and asks you a question about it, you kind of have to be ready to answer that question. of like defend it. Like this
Yeah.
is why I did this.
Yeah.
This is why this shoe's built this way. Where there, they really don't have to defend the shoes at all.
No, they just said build it exactly like this.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think that's the hardest thing in like a lot of past times you've seen shoes made and they're like, well, you could make it a little better. And it's like, well, what does that mean? You know what I mean? Did you not want it racked? Like, what are you telling me? Like, you want to see it square? What are you talking about? Like that's the hardest thing. But if they just say, build it identical to the specimen, and the shoe that looks identical to the specimen, floors, all that kind of stuff, maybe it wasn't a flaw. Maybe it was intentional. Like Craig was talking about the lateral clip on the square toe. Like it's dropped down on the lateral side. He said it's a flare. Like it's a French design. Like they want that. So everyone sees it as a flaw, but maybe it's not.
I don't think it is.
It's not. It's not.
That shoe, yeah. I don't like me when I look at that shoe. It's like that looks very intentional.
Well, how could you screw it up that bad?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's just.
You've seen some shoes on Facebook, man. Like it can happen.
Well, yeah, but like I mean, it's a nice shoe, so there's no way that a
Yeah.
talented farrier made that shoe and didn't do it intentionally.
Yeah.
That's what I think the coolest thing about the Spruce Meadows list is it's very like everybody always wants to talk about is traditional and everything like that. Like that shoe list is very traditional to the whole world. Of like it's each corner's traditional shoeing and their values in it and how they're supposed to be made. Like it's
It's cool.
Super interesting. Yeah,
Well, it's one of those ways of tying the world to a contest. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like it would have been pretty boring if it was just American-made shoes everywhere. You know, I'd be like, well, that's like it's not a world contest. It's like world horseshoeing in America. It's like world. Like the NBA World Finals or something, you know what I mean? It's like, well, that's only held in America. It never left America. So how is it world? You know what I mean? But I think this is a true world contest because just like it used to be, it's got international judges, it's got international shoes. It's it's cool.
No, I think it's going to be a great thing. And so, your normal practices for like say WCB. I know, like, I think it was the last one. You did pretty good there. And I messaged you and talked about it. You're like, well, I didn't even practice that much. Because, like, you've been, and I don't want to say that, like, oh, you can just not practice and go. You're at a certain level where you don't have to just, like, gruel it out. You just kind of had to figure them out. And
Yeah.
go.
Well, it's one of those things. Like, I've been pretty fortunate. I think I have won the last 3 WCBs, which is, it's pretty nice. Like, it's a cool thing.
It's a
like
Yeah. It's a huge accomplishment.
I think and like the last one we'll start with Madison. Like that was a shoe list you kind of had to build a few times because the shoes were no longer original stock thickness, width or anything. You know what I mean? They were specially forged to be that shoe.
Mm-hmm.
And you had to figure out how to get it there some way. And luckily for me, it was a big hitting contest because these shoes were taken from 3/8 to almost a quarter. So that's
And you can hit hard.
Bonus for me. So that was good. And then you go to Andrews, and he kind of like left them original stock thickness. So it's like you cut 12 inches of 3/8 corner, you turn it, it's going to be the same size. So like it was kind of a little bit. I don't know. It was just a little bit less figuring out. You just had to learn to build the shoes. So that was cool. I mean, like, it was kind of crazy. I don't know if I told you, but I don't know. I won the 5 shoes that were there. So that was kind of a cool thing to be like.
Is that the first time that you'd won all? Because you won the match play as well, right?
Yeah, I won the match play there, which was cool. So in Madison, I won 4 out of 5 shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reserved in the match play against Chris. And then they kind of, So then I sort of had to do a little better than that. So I won the 5 shoes, and then I won the match play in Edgewood, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, hell yeah. That's sweet, man.
Did you practice the match play?
No, I didn't. Fuck.
Look at this guy.
It was one of those things. So like, I in Edgewood 2021, I won 2 classes and came third in the shoeing and lost the contest because of match play. Just solely on match play. I didn't make it past day 2. So I lost. I think Chris got 8 points on me on the last day or something that I didn't get nothing. So he just sailed on through, and I was like,
It's crazy how big of a difference just those few rounds of match play, getting 2 points at a time, they help you out in the long run.
It's like if you get kicked out of match play, you might as well finish 12th in the class. That's the difference. Like I think I got 16. Like I didn't lose a round in match play, which was so awesome. Because especially from a guy that sucked at match play like 2 years ago. So like I think we 16 points or something total just from the match play. Won 8 rounds. So
That's pretty good.
it's a lot of points. Like when you start, and like the same thing as Spruce is like it's going to be a big points game because you got a 5-point spread, or I think it might be more. I think it's 2 points to 5th or 6th or something. So it's like a 10-point spread from 1st to 7th.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's going to be a big points grab to grab any points you can in the top 6 placings. It's going to be really hard to win the contest without being in the top 6 every day.
What do you think about the short or the fast shooting classes there? Like, is that kind of a tough versus going from like a 60 or 70 minute class?
Yeah, I kind of felt fat and lazy there for a second when I did my first shoeing go. I was like, there's 10 minutes cut off, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it just really took away all the bull crap, you know, like luckily I'm a naturally quick forger. Maybe it's the fact that, like, I don't know. But, like, I can forge out shoes pretty quickly, so that's nice.
Might be the fact that you swing like almost like a huge hammer.
The Hulk.
huge hands and all. You're like, that might help out a little bit.
Yeah. It's one of those things that does, like, it's good to be able to move quickly. And I don't think, like, I think there's going to be a lot of handy people there. Hopefully the draws are all similar, like, you know, you don't get short feet, long feet, all that kind of stuff. Like, that's going to be the hardest thing for so many horses. There's going to be so many horses there. So the draws are going to really come down to, I think, like, if you got I think everyone's going to be trying for a 5 to 6 minute trim.
That's what I was going to ask you is, do you kind of have it figured out how much time you can spend per foot trimming?
Well, hopefully I'll get to do some pairs. That'll be sweet. That'll be a goal to get to the top 10, top 5 to do some pairs of feet. But I think when everyone's in the same boat, you got 5 to 6 minutes to trim a foot. You're only going to get so much done. It's one of those things that no one's really going to stand out, because if anyone does a standout 10-minute trim, they're not going to get finished. Right. So it's one of those things you get comparing apples to apples, because everyone's got the same amount of time.
Yeah, you're going to sacrifice one thing if you spend more time here.
Yeah,
vice versa, right?
There's just, you know, you got so much time for fitting, so much time for building. It's just one of those things. Like, I think 70 minutes, you would probably have better quality lower end guys, but I don't think the quality is going to change much from going from 70 to 60 for the top end. You know, it's not.
So have you been going at practice completely different for Spruce Meadows compared to what you've been practicing for WCBs?
No, I've done it exactly the same, really. Like, well, I'll go back to when you said, like, when I practiced for Edgewood. I think I was in Greece the week before. Like, I had a week home. So that was one of those things of, like, I had to build, was it 6 shoes? I had to figure out 6 shoes. I think for Spruce we have like 12, something like that, 10 or 12.
Yeah, just from that pool of shoes.
Yeah, puller shoes and stuff like that. So that's changed up a little bit of my normal go-to because I have to like pair up different shoes to each other. So it's been a little bit longer of a practice. And since I bought this house and stuff like that, like my time's been spread a little differently than maybe previous times. You know what I mean? You got other stuff to do, not just go home and forge, you know, like, 'cause even though it's a priority. It's one of those things trying to figure out the twice as many shoes. So I've been, it's a chaotic thing when what I normally do is I just cut, you know, every single shoe twice, and then I just pick out randomly and I throw them in a pile and I build those shoes together. So if I don't have a horse, I'll practice the foot shoe and I'll practice the specimen, and I'll knock it down to like 35 minutes and I'll run that go. Because you build those shoes together, so you can practice that. That's pretty, you know, you don't really leave that anvil when you're building those shoes. And then the polar shoes, I kind of make every shoe singly for a while until I figure out what I'm doing. And then I'll run them in goes, and then I'll just go back to doing them singly, because once I know how to build them, I know I can build them in time. That's not a problem. It's just then trying to get that like last little bit out of every shoe. I think you can do it a little easier when you're not focusing on anything else too.
Yeah. No, that's probably, it seems like a good way of going about it, that you're just trying to get like the I always fuck this word up, you know what I mean? Like the plan of the dance, what is that called? Choreography?
Choreography, yeah.
Yeah. You get that down for the shoes if they get paired up together, because that's kind of the hard part.
That's being choreography's never really been a big part of my deal. Like, there's certain shoes that you don't build fast, and there's certain shoes you want to knock out as quickly as possible. And I think just knowing how to build each shoe, you kind of know, like, wow, I'm not going to rush this shoe, but I know I'm going to have to get through this one pretty quickly. I don't think I'm the guy that's going to sit there and build a stack of every go and, like, you know, do 10 runs of each pairing. You know, that's probably 140 shoes. It's just it hasn't been my goal this time. So if I can build the shoes between, so I figure you got 10 heats each shoe, 20 heats per pair of shoes. If you can build each shoe under 10 heats, then you're doing good. You're going to get done no matter what. And if one's a 13 heat shoe, you just hope they draw, you know, an 8 heat shoe or a 7 heat shoe to go along with that shoe. If you got two 13 heat shoes, then, you know, you just got to know you got to be on the money.
So maybe if you don't mind, could you break down Spruce Meadows, like how the competition rolls for the people that might not be knowing? Like, you know, I'm sure you know, like, the plan at least of like what happens each day.
Yeah, so like
each day.
It's a long week. I think I fly out Monday.
How many days is it total?
It's Tuesday through Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like 5 days, right?
Well, 6, really.
6.
Yeah, 6 days.
So I fly out Monday, and I get there. Yeah, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be badass. So we fly out Monday. Tuesday, I think like registrations from 8 to 10, and then get a little walk around. This is the grounds. This is whatnot. Then you go into practice. Practice goes till probably 5, I'd say. I imagine they'll have all 10 forges rolling, and there'll be people busting out shoes. It'll probably be a big ego thing for a bunch of people. And then
I noticed that the first day is like a practice. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing because like some of the guys haven't worked with American steel. It's going to be really handy for a lot of guys. You know, it's. I'm probably not going to make too many shoes. Just kind of maybe build up some lactic acid and get the body working. But it's not going to be too much figuring out. But there's going to be some guys that are
traveling for a long time, so like they will have like not forged in a couple of days. Kind of nice to shake off the jet lag.
Yeah, the guys coming from Australia and stuff like that, they're going to want to, you know, move some. I think they're going up to Ian Ritchie's anyway, but so they shouldn't be too fatigued. But there is a big thing to travel beforehand. You know, sit still for so long, your body's gotta get used to burning that lactic acid. Otherwise, you tie up real bad. That's what didn't take me too long to work that out, but it sucks when you don't know.
Get the arm pump.
Yeah. So Tuesdays of practice, Wednesdays shoe in the foot, specimen front. So it's got the fully followed Master-Lock toe clip on the foot, and then the roadster fully followed. I believe it's a grass style roadster because it doesn't have a roadster to it.
That's what I was kind of wondering.
I don't know if that's
I think it's Alex Collier. I think Alex Collier made that specimen.
It's either Alex or Gary Darlow.
Okay.
What I've heard, I don't know.
You're probably right. I just remember I've seen Alex making that shoe a couple years ago or so.
Yeah, it could have been around for the last. Well, it's been around for the last 5 years, so he's probably.
It isn't toe clipped, is it? It's
quarter clipped, so it's a grass shoe. Like it's full through the toe, so it's kind of like that cross between that horse is going to be pulling a wagon through a dirt road, not really through a cobblestone street.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just I think the origin of that shoe. Not that I know anything about it, but so then Thursday is the speed forging, I believe. So they got the 20-minute 2 pieces weld and make a draft shoe.
Thing's crazy.
Yeah.
20 minutes out of 2 pieces.
And you get a striker?
You do, yeah. Thankfully.
Okay.
Oh,
Otherwise
that's good.
It'd just be me having fun. No, you do get a striker, but that's kind of those funny things. Like you always hear the impossible. What's impossible? You know what I mean? And then you see some cool shit done at like. I'll throw back to the Edgewood. They're like we were doing. I think cork and wedge. No, we're doing straight bars in Edgewood. And we had 12 minutes to start. We knocked it down. I think the last round before we went into the finals was 9 minutes. And you're like, holy crap, 9 minute plane stamp toe clip. Where you guys at? And then Craig's like, yeah, we're going to do a draft foot for the finals. And I'm like, okay.
Did you cut a 1/2 inch by 1 1/4 or how did that go? I dipped out before it ended.
So it was. I think Craig's like, yeah, we're going to go back up to 12 minutes because you got to make a draft shoe. So we went up to 12 minutes, and I'm like, that's still not a lot of time to get 1/2 inch hot. So I cut 1 1/4 by 3/8 because you obviously needed to cover with the 1 1/4, but I thought 3/8 was going to heat up quicker. So we made some 12 minute 23 inches of 1 1/4 by 3/8.
It's big.
But that was kind of fun. So then I kind of thought that, and I was like, well, it's only the same amount of weld heats as that shoe. And I just got to follow it and punch it. So time-wise, it's actually, you can make quite a nice shoe. It's that when you actually get to the nitty-gritty of it, you can actually make a nice shoe.
Really? So you're not even that worried about getting it done in time. You're like, this is gonna be simple.
No, it'll be good.
Yeah.
As long
Can
as
you-
huh?
Can you rasp on that one in that class?
It's hammer finish.
Oh, it's
Even
hammer
better.
finish as well.
Yeah. So as long as you weld, you got 2 weld heats, and then you got 1 to put a clip on it. It's really not that many heats. But obviously every go is going to have to go well for you to be happy. It's just like one of those things that you got to, hopefully your weld sticks.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give too many secrets away because there's a lot of money on the line. So
It's a contest.
Yeah,
it's
70
a
got
contest.
$5,000. That'd be sweet.
I know. But no, it's there is a good amount of time in that
Isn't
class.
it Canadian?
Yeah, it's 55 American, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, still,
Oh, it is?
55 is it's a good chunk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
still
Pays
not-
for that
that's still not
citizenship
too
if you
bad.
get it.
Yeah. No kidding. But no, so like then the Friday is the hind feet, so plain stamp, Masalot, toe clip. Craig was freaking badass legend to just tell us that we're going to put 3/4 or fully fullards on the front and plain stamps on the hind. So that knocked down practice by half. So that was sweet. So we do know that, and then that's obviously got the deep seated fully or 3/4 fullard hammer finished bar shoe. That's just a sweet little shoe.
Yeah.
Definitely an overlooked tricky shoe.
So if you had your choice out of the pool of shoes, which ones would you like to have picked? It's kind of putting you on the spot there.
Hard to answer because you're like, do I jinx myself?
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm thinking.
And it's like,
oh man, I would love that Dutch shoe and that square toe. Give me that one, please.
oh, no kidding.
No. Hopefully, I jinxed myself.
Yeah.
I
remember, like,
that French hind square toe thing's kind of like, it's a cool shoe, but
It's
it's
different.
just not something that you're like, you can build like in your subconscious. Like you already have this like French toe shoe, French hind image burned into your head, and it's like hard to make your head like, no, now you're gonna do this weird thing.
Well, if you ask Grant Moon, they've been setting shoes back since the 1800s, so that's a sitting son of a bitch. Like, you could set that back off a front foot.
Yeah.
Like, that some bitch is going back.
It's wide.
Yeah.
That it ain't no AFA rocker or AFA square toe.
No.
That's
No, that's a
back
hard
there.
one to get. It's hard to get them really wide like that.
Yeah, and like it's probably made out of metric steel because it's French. So you get a little bit of wiggle room with the 1.25 inch that we have, which is really nice. But again, it's like, shoot, how do you build this thing out of that stock? But I mean, like the Dutch shoe's fine. That's one of the weird things I didn't know that was happening is we don't have a schedule program for that pool of 6 shoes. Like, we find out 30 minutes before the first go who's going in the first go. And then every 5 minutes before the class finishes, the next round just finds out when they're going. So everyone's going to be sitting around waiting and waiting and waiting all day to find out which go they're in.
Yeah.
So no one's got like they can't bugger off and go down the road and build shoes. Like, they have to be sitting there waiting to go, which is probably the best way to run it.
That's
Fairness.
smart.
I'm
Craig
kind of
is
looking
not
at,
I didn't know that.
not a silly man.
as I'm kind of looking at the
Not
list,
his
I
first rodeo.
can see which ones you probably would want on here, actually. Since there's a left front bevel and
Left front bevel would be nice, and the Italian's a pretty sweet shoe. The plain stamp's a really nice shoe. The Masalot toe clip. You can tell that was made out of metric stock because, the guys building that shoe will know that in America. And then, what else we got? The square toe, the bevel, the shoe.
there's a caulk
The
and
Dutch
wedge
shoe.
concave.
Yeah, the concave shoe. That's a nice shoe. It's one of those things. It's like, I don't want to jinx anyone, but like, is it gonna be two really tough shoes together? Is it gonna be an easy shoe, a lighter shoe? Like, that's one of those things. I'd rather it just be two nice shoes and roll on. You know what I mean?
Are they just gonna pull the shoes from a hat, like, or is someone gonna choose them?
I have no idea.
Me neither.
Remember, like,
Interesting.
always being at like AFA convention or whatever, and like top of a conversation would always be like, "Ooh, what shoe do you think they're gonna pick in the specialty class?" Because there's always a pool,
Yeah.
you know. And that was always the buzz beforehand.
How do they do it at AFA? Do they pull it from a hat, or do they just choose to?
They tell you at the like the initial team meeting, I think. They'd be like, "These
How do
are
they
the shoes
choose
it's
it?
gonna be."
Yeah, but how do they choose? Like,
Good question.
That's
a good question.
Because
Well, they have to.
You could pull it from a hat and just make sure all the shoes that are in the pool could go together.
Yeah.
Like, are all
Well, they all-
possible.
They all could go together.
Yeah.
I
So
think
there's
that'd probably
nothing
be.
like, oh, this wasn't a good pull. We have to re-pull one.
Yeah, I hope somebody just picks out 2 nice shoes, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fair to pull it out of the hat, but I don't care if somebody just picks 2 nice shoes and we roll on. I don't know if it's going to be like the EFA where they keep the duds that didn't get pulled and they go next year. I don't know how it's going to be, so that's one of those things. It's also like, I have no idea.
I would think it would be that way. I would think he'd keep the shoes and keep them as specimens for the pools. And just because like that builds on it for later, you know what I mean? That says like we can do this again next year. Because like getting specimen shoes isn't real easy.
No, but I guess if you're getting them from everywhere around the world, it's probably not as hard.
Yeah.
But you probably have a lot of people wanting to send them in that you're like, well, this one's gonna go in the like. I'm not saying this is what it does, but like, we don't want this one.
I bet you Craig got a bunch of shoes that he welded into shoe balls.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably.
So you've been doing a bunch of judging this year, it seems like.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to you earlier in the year, and you were saying that you were going to try to do that where you kept your specimens.
Yeah, I talked to a bunch of people about like, just like my freaking energy saver just turned on. Anyway, so they kind of advised me not against it. It's one of those things. Like I sat in 2 different seats, and I was like, like I spend, like an hour on every shoe. So if you do a stupid shoe list and you don't do a few pairs and you do this, you're making, you got 10, 20 hours in a shoe list if you're not careful. And then you're like, then I just give it away and somebody spends $60 on it. Like,
Yeah.
I know that everyone's like, wow, that's so good. We got $60 for it. You're like,
It took me a long time to make those.
that was a sweet shoe. You know what I mean? Like, just because it was a plain stamp doesn't mean it's not worth, it's just one of those, it's a tough one. Like, I had 4 to judge this year, and I'm like, oof.
It's also like going through your mind, like,
A lot of shoes.
you want to support the association and stuff by donating
Yeah.
that. And
They're paying for me to go there and do all that stuff. It's one of those things of, it's giving back. And then like I think Hot Augusta, I think they raised enough money just out of my shoes to pay me. So then I'm
damn.
like, well, that's cool because it didn't really like take anything away from the contest, and then hopefully they can get a better judge next year.
Yeah.
But that's one of those things that you're just like, like, what is fair? You know what I mean? You got some associations that have 60 grand in the bank, and you're like, what's my time worth to you? And then you got some associations that are just starting up. Like I think SWOFA that I just judged, I donated my time and my specimens that I didn't really make because it was a spruce warm-up, and I didn't feel like, it's one of those things of like, you go to a warm-up contest and they give you a specimen, you're like, well, it looks like nothing like the specimen, so is it much of a warm-up? You know what I mean?
I see what you're
Or
saying.
do you just judge the contest of how it would be judged on the day? Like, here's your picture, judge it.
Yeah.
You know what I
Make
mean?
this.
Like my interpretation, every shoe I make is still going to be an interpretation of what I think a shoe is. So it's like, how far do you go with making specimens for, like, my next contest is going to be an AFA warm-up in MIFA. So do I sit there and make every single specimen I'm going to judge off of, or do I let them judge off, or do I let them just build the shoes? But then they don't get the money for my shoes. So then I probably will just make a cool auction item, and hopefully somebody bucks up some good money for that,
It's hard too because like it is the. I always think the most unrated shoes in the whole auctions, any auction, are always like the novice shoes or something.
Yeah, go for
because it's
$20.
Cheap, and it's a shoe that the guy's not going to make and have in circulation real often. You know what I mean? Like, a guy like you isn't going to be like, if someone asks you to make him a shoe, you're not going to be like, oh, I'm going to make you a sweet plain stamp.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to make them something a little bit more. So it's like, you get this, like, prime specimen for $20 that's built to the, like, basics and still, and, like, really good. I think that's, like, the most, like, giving back to the trade there is, because that usually goes to
a novice guy.
The dude in the novice.
That needs it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good guideline, you know what I mean? And like, I think I made, you go to the demos and stuff like that, and everyone asks you, oh, can I keep that, hockey stick you made? It's like, yeah, freaking drill a hole in it and nail it to your wall. Like, keep that some bitch forever. Because, like, there's going to be so many people that look at that thing and go, wow, I never thought about doing that. It's like, there's so many simple things that you miss on the basics, I reckon.
Oh, it's huge. No, I think it is a thing, but it's also something like you don't think of it when you first get asked to judge, like your first couple contests. You don't even think about the specimen part until you're like in the middle of it. You're like, this is a lot of work. It's a lot of work making all these shoes. And like, what goes through your head when you're trying to just make a shoe list? Say you're not doing a warm-up. Say you're doing a shoe list that's all yours. How do you try to put that list together?
Well, this is a funny story. It's one of those things, like I got asked to do a bunch of contests in quick concession. And like I had 3 contests, like boom, boom, boom. And I was like, oh, okay, like this is my first year judging, you know what I mean? I got 4 contests to judge. I'm like, holy shit, like popular man, like it sucks to be me. But, it's obviously a freaking honor to be able to judge all these contests. But it's also like, holy crap, well, what do I give these guys? So, like, Hot Augusta was a cool one because that was all my own shoes. And I spent a bunch of time making all those shoes. I think the first one I did was in Louisiana. I made all those shoes. And then the Swofa one, that was a warm-up contest. So it was kind of one of those things of like, all right, I have to make, well, shoot, I didn't even have to make novice. They had a separate judge. So this is I'm going to do a shout out here. This was a badass contest that was super under supported. I don't know if it was, grab your extension. Sorry. I want to get my computer charged so it doesn't die while we're mid-podcast. So they have a super, super cool contest here in Chicago. It's like one of those things of they had 60 horses there available. So honestly, it was just going to be a miniature spruce. Like we had every go available. So we had 2 goes at every day. You could have done every single go for a warm-up. It was awesome. There's 60 horses available. It's I don't know. It's in a massive pavilion with fans blowing down. It was a nice facility. It was just one of those things. Like it was August. It was hot. I don't think too many people knew about it.
I was wondering if the name Hot Augusta lived up to the name.
Well, Hot Augusta was this one was Swofa in Cincinnati, but the Hot Augusta was hot.
Yeah, it looked hot.
Like I was sweating just walking around. I was like, man, this is fun. They did a good job of fans and stuff.
Crazy to have 60 horses available.
Yeah, literally.
Usually people are like, we got 4.
Yeah,
we got 4 here.
It's at one of the.
All 4 doesn't even show up. Like,
one of them stands like a mutt.
Yeah.
I hope that gray horse never comes back to Fort Worth.
Oh my god.
Fuck.
Some of the horses at contests are like, I know it's hard to get horses, but it's like, this is no fun. There's no way I would get paid to shoot this horse. Like I'd fire this client.
It's tough. It's real tough. But this is a college that has 60 horses on site, and you can shoot any one of them. And they're all just like, I think 60 of them owned by the college, and there's more horses that are privately owned. And so we just rolled in. We could pick any horses. We did. Oh, it's just freaking sweet. But that's definitely going to be one on my radar next year. That's the one I donated my time back to. So next year, hopefully, they can get the judge for Spruce to judge that, and it'll be a super, super cool warm-up. So there'll be SWOFA, Southwestern Farriers Association of Ohio. I don't know the abbreviation, but yeah. Anyway, so yeah, Hot Augusta was hot. It was good. It was nice though. It was good.
Is it pretty hot at home for you right now?
Oh man, this last week. I mean, it's hard to say because, like, you know, New Mexico and Texas boys are gonna be like, oh, it's hot as, you know, it's 114 down here, and it's like, that's hot, you know what I mean? And but like, it was like in the mid 90s, high 90s here with a real feel over 100 and like 60% humidity. That's hot to anyone. I don't care who you are.
Oh yeah.
But
do you guys get any snow? Do you guys get any snow there in Kentucky?
yeah, we'll have like pretty measly amount. Like we'll have probably maybe a foot on average cumulatively a year.
And then do you guys ever get any in New Zealand?
I think like we'll go droughts for like a couple years where my parents live. Obviously in the mountains, you know, where I grew up 20 minutes from the ocean, an hour from the slopes. So the mountains get a bunch, and then we're too close to sea level, so it's hard for the snow to get down that far.
Right.
So we might snow like every once every 2 years might be a good snow. But like normally just frost in the morning is pretty all we get there.
But that's just where your parents live, right? Because there's huge ski resorts there.
Oh yeah, and you got the Southern Alps running through the whole bottom of the South Island, and they just always snow on them through the winter. Yeah, they got blankets of it.
That was like one of my biggest disappointments I didn't do. I don't know about disappointments, but I wish I would have gone in high school, because you could be a snowboard instructor here during the winter and then go spend summer in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And keep doing it. Like they were always looking for American instructors.
Always Americans up on the slopes doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was like a pretty common deal.
Yeah, and then a lot of Kiwis go over to Whistler or America to do their lot. So you're back.
Did we lose that?
He's there.
My fucking.
I can see it now.
Yeah.
So you said earlier that you only trimmed like 7 horses last week. Is that pretty common for you, or are you like, was it just a light week?
No, I did 7 sets on Monday. 7 sets, 3 half, and a couple trims. But so last week, or this past week, this is gone. We were in Canada 5 weeks ago, so it was one of those things of it was an empty week, and I just left it empty.
Yeah.
I probably could have drug a couple in from this week coming. I think I got 12 or 13 sets to do Wednesday. But sometimes, like, I just would rather just leave them at 5 and just do a big week. It was kind of nice having a week off, especially because it was so bloody hot this past week. Now everyone always asks me, they're like, man, you're like always gone. Like, how do you run a full book? Like, you must have financial help or something. I'm like, yeah, that would be nice. Like, that's one of those cool things. Like, my parents did a lot for me when I was like, you know, growing up. And like, I think the last time they sent me money is when I first started my apprenticeship at the school in New Zealand. Now, that's the last time just, you know, I haven't had a single dime given to me since then, which is kind of one of those cool things. Like, so I normally shoot, I don't know how many on my books, but I probably have 200 to 250 on my book, so pretty good paying clients, you know what I mean? Like, and I normally I don't know, I can say that I've lived in this house that I just bought. I think I've been in it for 2 weekends since middle of June, for 2 full weekends since I've been here. So
that's not a whole lot.
that's not a whole lot. So like, I normally work 4 days a week because every Friday I'm normally gone somewhere, and then every now and then I'll have a light week, and every week that I'm working it's pretty busy.
How far away from Dillon are you?
I'm 8 hours.
Oh, so it's a flight then.
Well, I drove last time.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. Flights are a pain in the ass. I fly anything over 8 hours, but I'll drive to Dillon's and I'll drive to Carl's because it's like around, like Carl's is 7 hours and 15 and Dillon's like 8 hours. And that's one of those things, like, I will spend just as much time flying as I would driving.
It's true. You got to be there before, and then the time getting in there. And
It's just not worth it. You don't save any time.
yeah.
Yeah, well, I fly enough that I've got gold, so I got 70-pound bags, which is nice now. So I don't have to worry too much about weight. That's a super big thing. Oh, I might have lost old Riley.
Riley? Yeah, I think his Wi-Fi was starting to go bad on us. But
That's all right.
you also you also went up to Canada for that draft shoeing contest. How was that?
Yeah, five weeks ago, this week.
Yeah.
It was good. You know what I mean? Like, we kind of knew what we were up against going over there. It was a good deal. I think we put the work down that we wanted to put down on the ground. You know, every now and then you'd say you could always do something better.
Of course.
But it was one of those things of like. It was interesting. We won't go too far into it. We had fun. Yeah.
Do you do any draft horses like in your everyday book?
I have one trim.
One trim.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a lot of like the shoeings and stuff is kind of like for practice or anything like that you've done draft wise.
It's one of those things of finding a good draft horse. Like I tried to find a draft horse for weeks before my team come in to practice before we went up there, because it was one of those cool things that my sister come over to visit me, and it was the same weekend that we were meant to be practicing, and then the next week we were heading out to the contest. So all the guys were like, "Oh, we'll come to your place, we'll practice, we'll shoot a draft horse, and we'll head up there all tuned up, and you get to spend some time with your sister while she come all the way over there." It's just a bad timing. So we tried to practice up before we left, and I tried to get a hold of a draft horse. I had 6 people willing to bring a horse. Ended up not panning out, every single one of them. Everyone's like, "Oh, I got trailer problems, I got truck problems, I got this, I got that." And I'm like, draft people are just the weirdest people. Like, they just, I don't know. They're always like, "Oh, I can't find a farrier that wants to like put up with my stupid ass." But it is what it is.
Horse, and yeah, because a lot of times they don't behave very well, and yeah.
I think horses. It's one of those things. I heard this thing on the radio the other day. If you want to have if you want to rescue a horse, that's now on you. You know what I mean? It's not anyone else's fault that a horse is stupid. It's on you. You wanted the stupid horse. So I don't think anytime you can blame a horse on being bad, it's on the owner. I don't think it's anything to do with the horse.
I agree. Yeah, just devote more time into training it.
Can you guys hear me? All right. So I don't know what happened there. I just caught the tail end of that. But you don't think there's just pile of shit horses out there?
Well, yeah, but shoot them.
Yeah, okay, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, man, I've seen some fucking straight mean bastards. They like, I don't care how much, like, the training is putting lead between their eyes.
Yeah.
Because there's something not ticking up there.
But it's on the person.
Okay.
It's you know what I mean. That's the horse owner's responsibility to work out whether it's dog food or it's gonna get shoes today.
Yeah.
People are too nice now. They're like, yeah, he's a dick, but what are you?
Yeah, he kicked the last guy 3 times, and like He just, got a taste for blood.
Hard pill to swallow.
Dude, I called the Humane Society for my first time last
Yeah.
week on a lady, and the horse, I've shod the horse trimmed the horse 3 times. Horse is just skinny. It's just skin and
Yeah.
bones. And like it was getting skinnier as I was doing it. Like the very first time I did it, horse was skinny, feet haven't been touched in a year. Trimmed it, looked in its mouth, teeth are growing forward. Like he's totally locked up. You can't, no gliding at all. Like there's no plate there. And I called the Humane Society, and she's like, and she called, of course, like the husband and her called me like a million times after the Humane Society show up. And they're like, I can't believe you're saying they were abusing the horse. And it's like, they don't even see it.
Yeah.
Like people are so lost. Like they don't see that letting that horse be mean is abuse, and they don't see that like they're like, he's here, he has a home. We don't go kick him every day.
Well, you know what's funny? Like you talk about animal abuse, but like, how many horses have you seen die from being skinny?
Oh, a few.
Yeah. How many horses have you seen die from being fat?
So
Way more. Way
more.
more.
So many.
Way more.
I fire them. I lose them quite a bit because like we have very, very rich
Yeah.
grass. Like our grass grows very well here, and so that means founder happens very
Yeah.
easy here. And it's like you'll never be on the winning end of the battle with the lady that's loving her horse to
No.
death.
Killing
never.
them with kindness.
She loves that horse way more than any knowledge. Yeah.
I had a
it's like-
client that I said, your horse is fat. She said, oh my gosh, you can't say that. I'm like, why not? It's fat. And I'm like, what are you feeding this horse? And she's like, well, a scoop morning and night. I'm like, a scoop of what? And she's like, sweet feed? What do you think? And it's on a 5-acre pasture by itself. The thing looks like
and he gets a couple flakes about
oh, yeah, only the best for full fluffy. And then she's wondering why it's walking a little tender. And I'm like, you need to put this horse in a dry lot, and it needs to starve off about 300 pounds. And then, and she's like, what are you talking about? All upset that I'm calling her horse fat. And I'm like, okay, your horse is going to die in 3 weeks if you don't do this. Like, you want me to say that I've got pictures on my phone for the last week. A lady texted me and said her horse died. And I was like, that's what she said. I said, hey, is your horse still here? I'm like looking to show it, you know what I mean? And she's like, she's dead. Laminitis, ... And I'm like,
Oh shit.
The lamb he got
yeah.
her.
And I'm like,
the old
wow.
lamb he not-
And this is
got her- got
that's
another
the healthy horse, you know what I mean? And just laminitis freaking got her good, and it's sad because, you like showing horses, but then you get some horses that just put up with all this crap for so long, and then you're just like, well, how do I help it? I'm like, it's done. You could have helped it years ago.
Yeah.
People aren't very good at giving tough love to their animals, or even somewhat of a thought process.
No,
Like
I think that's the biggest
these
difference.
people feed them so much.
That's the
man.
difference
Like,
between New Zealand and America is like I would have never have worked on so many projects as I have. I call them projects because it's either going to work or it's not. And like Lexington's got enough like money and resources where they're like, oh, my horse has got degenerative navicular disease. It's gonna dissolve, and it's not gonna have a navicular bone in a couple of years. But I'm gonna keep it around until it's so miserable that I have to put it down. And it's like in New Zealand, that thing would be ground up. It's crazy.
It's funny here. I think we also maybe have enough people that population exists
Yeah.
here. Like it might exist a little bit there in New Zealand, but it's so
Very
small.
small.
Where like the population we have here, or the group of people that we have here that will shoot that horse and not use him, is that population shoots their own
Yeah,
horses.
yeah. You don't see that.
They're cowboys.
Yeah.
We aren't touching those horses, and there's no money in those horses here for us.
No.
Really. Like yeah, it'd be great to shoot a bunch of like somewhat good-footed horses that you knew as soon as the problem came up, they just get rid of them and get another one because they're cheaper.
Yeah, it's kind of fun though because I work for the University of Kentucky, and they literally test like metabolic horses. Horses that are gonna founder. It's not when, like it's not if, it's like when. And like I just lost one the other day that I told them to put down 6 months ago, and like it's one of those things of like, it's not really my job to say you need to put this horse down, but also they respect me enough to be like, all right, this horse is done. And I was like, hey, you need to put this horse down. Like, it's not going to come back. And so we struggled on that one because apparently it walked up sound to the vet that day, so they didn't put it down. 6 months later, it's still living on Butte or Equiox, and, you know, they finally walks up and they're like, I'm like, this is the last time I'm shoeing this horse. It needs to be put down. You know, it had 18 degrees and 24 degrees of rotation. And you're like, wow, like that's a lot. Like that's just a lot. And I knew in that environment it was never gonna come full circle. They're gonna put it into another test and it's gonna rotate again, and then the horse can't get up. You know what I mean? Like it's just one of those things. But it got put down and now it's happy.
And do you kind of hit the point where you're like, I feel like I'm involved with something dirty at this point and I don't want to be?
You know, like
it's like you're keeping it alive a little bit.
That's,
you know?
I felt,
and everybody always likes to say like, well, if I don't do it, someone else will. It's like,
yeah. I mean, like it's at some stage, it's like, man, it's a paycheck in a way. You're like, and it's a learning curve.
So selling men.
Yeah. It's one of those things. So I know working there that I'm going to be dealing with multiple founded horses every day. Every horse I shoe there is founded.
Wow.
It's not like I shoe a good-footed horse there. Every single horse I shoe there has founded.
So do you enjoy working on the projects?
So I think a lot of it's investment. So these horses are worth nothing. They're donated to the university. They research on them. They give them fescue grass. They inject sugar into them. They spike them. They do all these different tests. You know, they did hemp oil studies. I don't know if I'm allowed to tell you this, but like, you know, they do all these things to test products on them and all these different things, and they die. It's one of those things that like it's a reoccurring thing. Like I think
For
we've
science,
lost
though, essentially
5 or 6 horses this year just on strangulating lipoma, I think the name is, which is a colic where the horse dies. It's not going to get rescued in that situation. But so it's not the case that I feel like that. It's an investment because later on in my life I'm gonna get a high level jump horse or a high level anything horse that comes in with laminitis, and I'm gonna walk in there and know how to fix it.
Yeah,
I think that's a good point. And you don't have like you can fuck up these horses at the college. Like you know, I'm not saying you are or not, but you're like, okay, this didn't work, and it wasn't. When your name was on the line and something, a bigger bloodline on the line or a bigger horse's name on the line. Not to say that these horses are worth nothing, because like monetarily wise.
Well, it's hard not to care for every horse we shoe for because we love animals and blah blah blah. Like it's sad. Like I say it with deep like remorse. Like this horse needs put down, and you're looking at it, petting its head. You're like, fuck. I know I'm not the guy pulling the trigger, but I just told them that this horse needs to die. And you're like, man, that sucks. But the nicest thing to do for that horse is that. And like,
it's hard to understand as a person that like we are animal managers.
Yeah.
And a part of that is deciding when they are no longer. It's good, not good for them.
Well, we see them every 5 to 6 weeks. A vet might see them every 6 to 1 year. So like we are literally the leading professional that sees them the most frequently.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really our job to supervise.
And
in a way,
we're creating a relationship with that horse, whether we like to think that or not. You know, just by being around it.
Yeah, and like the WCB guys come out. I think Dylan and Troy, and we were showing some founded horses at that place, and they're like. I'm like, it,
Troy's probably never even seen a founder horse. Like, he lives in cowboy country. They're like, no, we don't feed them enough to get a belly.
No.
Like, that doesn't happen around here. They're eating sand.
yeah, sand colic's the only thing that kills them around there.
No
But no, it's funny because you're rockering back to the second nail hole, and you're doing straight 45-degree rockers, like, and just nipping through sole and like doing some interesting stuff. And it's funny because like I've got a pretty good knack to what not to do on a certain type of foot during a certain stage of its laminitis.
Interesting.
But one of those biggest things, like I was talking to a few people the other day, it's like unsupported hoof wall dies. Like if you don't give it a job, it dies. Just like quarters, toe. Like if you set back a toe, you come back, it's all shriveled up, it's all infected with white line, anything like that, it dies. Like quarters die. Like if you put a reverse shoe on a foot, it's weird. Everything in front of that shit dies. So like I just rock a toe everything. I just savagely rock a toe. And I
give it something to grow.
Yeah,
it's like to stimulate
the ground force reaction coming back to the coronary band. Like it thrives on it.
Yeah.
It really does.
That's a good little cue there. So it's like, do you have in your head of like what you're gonna do right when a horse founders?
The best thing to do is to give it anti-inflammatories. And keep the heat down. Like the inflammation's really the worst thing for that. And I've gone back and forth on the whole wedge thing. Like I'm like, man, if you wedge a foot, you're increasing the shear force by fucking 4 times. You know what I mean? It's you're just creating a freaking shear. But if you rock it back on the heels, you load a part of the foot that doesn't have so much lamina.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of different. I haven't figured that out yet.
Take that up with kind of like with the conformation that this horse has. That probably where it would help versus where it wouldn't. If you'd make that decision.
Well, why does a horse want to rock back? That's
Just
why.
take
Yeah. So in my instance, am I noticing crap? When you wedge a horse, it's really hard for it to rock back. So
It gets his front feet closer to his
I know.
nose.
So I can't answer that in a way because I've always been the one to trim back them heels and put a flat shoe on them, and then like after the acute stage, then you start wedging them back up and you start trying to connect that bone to the dorsal wall. But when you drop them down, you have to make sure you bring back the breakover. It's just the same as like a high foot. Everyone wants to be a hero and drop the high foot, but they don't realize the length of breakover they just put in front of the center of rotation.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it makes it super long. Like it lengthens that foot out quite a bit.
Quite a
but it
bit.
doesn't lengthen the frog.
So that's that hard thing of like
Frog's still short.
like you can't have leverage on a laminated horse.
Yeah.
So that's just like right away. That's what you're going to try to do is reduce inflammation, heat, and leverage.
Yeah. Well, the
Like when do you know you can start moving? Like, are there some cues they're telling you, or is it coming down to X-rays?
normally you'll see a horse come sound after like a week or two. So normally the next time you come back, you can start changing things up. As long as they're not hobbling around lame, like they're still acute, then they're just uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So you can. It's hard to say when, but like you can notice. You can definitely tell.
Now, how often are you going out to the university then? Is it like once a week type thing, or just once every cycle?
I think I shoot more. Well, every now and then one dies, and then I get another one. So it's really just a reoccurring like 15 horses there. So it's like I normally just do 5 every time I go, in 3 weeks. and they're kind of one of those people that don't really care when they get done. So they'll get pushed to. They should be done every 4 to 5 weeks, but they don't really notice it when they get pushed to 7 because you're out of town. So then, like, my race horses that like need to be done, they get kind of the priority. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I had a horse. I shot him 3 days before he went to Saratoga. He won a 1 3/4 race up there for this one was 150,000 or something up there. And like, it's funny because I didn't know the horse was as good as it was. Like, he's won 500,000 easy this year. He about set a lap record on Keeneland track. He was off by 0.2 of a second for the 1 3/4. He won 250 grand that day. So I didn't know how good of a horse he was. I was just kind of like showing him like he was a normal horse. But he's the big horse, they call him. And I was heading, I can't remember where I was going. I was either going up to Michigan or somewhere. But I was like, they're like, oh, is he good to run? He's at like 5 weeks. And I was like, yeah, he's good. You know what I mean? Just run him. And he's got great feet. Like, he's pretty healthy footed. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't say that on a shitty footed one. But he holds together real well, and he won that race on like 4 to 5 week shoeing cycle. It was more of winter, like it was coming out of fall or something when they ran those in March, I think it was. And I was like, just run him. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But that was kind of funny.
You didn't really know what was at stake for telling them that.
No, I didn't really. No. But yeah, it's funny.
I suppose they probably didn't cut.
I didn't think I was going to be a track shoer.
Oh,
no,
yeah?
I haven't got crap for that. Just $250.
Fuckers.
Yeah.
So you like
that
shoeing
was
race
at 1%, not even that. Well, it's funny. I never thought I was going to be a racehorse shoer because, everyone talks about racehorses, they suck and all this and blah, blah, blah. And I shoe every Monday. I go into a yard. I shoe 5 to 6 head, and then I go and shoot saddle horses after that. I don't start till 9. Most horses are ran by 9. They're all done their job. There's nothing worse than shoeing a racehorse that hasn't done anything that day yet. Nothing worse. But it's like if you shoe one that's like just come off the track, they've dried off from the wash, come in, he just stands there with his head down. He knows what he's doing. You just knock around 35 minutes, $250, and you roll on. It's kind of a nice thing.
So do you got to kind of know some of the rules, is like the toe grabs and stuff like that, or they just kind of tell you what they need?
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like, I'll ask them if they're on grass. I just put XTs on, Kirkart XTs, Queens, or I don't know what they are, but they're just XTs. Which I think is like 2.5 mil toe grab, which I think should be legal on anything. There's fucking nothing. I don't agree with regular toes or anything like that. That's just stupid. But when you're like, my nail heads sit just as far out of the shoe as the toe grab on the XTs. So I'm like,
what's the difference?
What's the difference? You know what I mean? Like I'm nailing up with Mustad hammerhead ones on all my shoes, and they sit in there pretty nice. They don't slop around. They're never loose at the end of the cycle, and I think they give a horse a little bit extra, like, rim, which I don't think it ever hurts anything. At least it's not in the center of the toe, you know what I mean? It's not dropping them back on the heels or anything on hard ground. Like, it's pretty centralized to the foot. I don't really get in trouble with too many rules. Every now and then they'll be like, oh, I got a horse running next week on the grass. Can you grind its toe grabs off? And I'm like, sure, I'll grind your toe grabs off. Why don't you grind the toe grabs off? Like, but it didn't take 2 minutes. And it's funny, you take a battery angle grinder to a foot and just, it's throwing sparks everywhere. And these horses just don't care. They're just so used to dumb stuff like that. It's kind of funny.
Far out. Far out. I'd have some.
But it's shit. Well, that's funny because and so it's a funny thing. Like, I'm about to like jump in a hole. Like, I use a buffer every day. on a drill, and anyone in the world can come ride with me if they have a problem with that, and come see the quality of foot that I deal with every day. And my only arguing factor to this is rough sawn timber versus finished timber. You leave two boards out side by side in the weather, that rough sawn is going to be rotten way quicker than the finished timber, because the finish and it's slick. Nothing holds to it as much. It's not porous. So I think the water sheds off the duck's back a little quicker when the finish is super smooth.
It's a good way of looking at it. I hadn't thought of that before.
But I want to say this too, but I only use it very, 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 very lightly. Like, it's a quick buzz, just back in one scoop around, that's it. And it's a very quick movement. It's not hollowing out the foot like I see so many honkies use it. God, I can't stand it. But I have seen worse. I have not saying worse effects, but I have seen a lot of people ruin a good foot with a file because they're trying to clean up the foot, and it's just like, God, why? I'm taking off micro bits, and I use a 100 grit sandpaper. I take it to the heel of my anvil. I take off any high spots of the sandpaper, and I use it for as long as I can. So after the first, second horse, it's really going down to like 150 grit, and then so on and so forth. Like my last 10 horses I used with it, it's so smooth.
It's like using a rag almost.
Even the first few, really. Yeah, it's crazy.
You're burnishing more than you are
sanding.
I'm not removing anything, really. I'm not trying to remove anything.
It's a burnishing.
Yeah.
Point. It's not. The only thing I have a problem with there is you grinding on your damn anvil. Like, just why are you doing that? What did your poor anvil ever do to you? That you're like, I'm gonna grind. Like, fuck this seal. You can just get.
It was funny because I was like,
get something else. Get a little scrap steel.
One day I was like, man, I noticed the first horse I used a fresh thing, and I was like, fire, that scratched in that real bad. I did not like that. I like the people that use,
when you can see the lines.
People use the 60 grit on feet. I'm like, yeah, that's why.
Might as well grab some rocks.
Man,
dude.
Yeah.
I have a client that shows Morgans, and she has this one Morgan that she shows. She does some Morgan shows with him, but she also does some dressage with him. He's huge. He's a big, warm, bloody looking Morgan, and he has very thin feet, and they would bathe them 6 times a day, and they're like, well, we're buffing his feet twice an event, and it's like, okay, yeah, this is going, that's why his feet are so thin.
Yeah.
Every time I came back, my feet looked they're like holograms.
Yeah, they are.
The whole entire thing, it was like, why are these flaring on me? I'm like, I swear this foot's getting worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she was just grinding it away. She was showing almost every weekend and just.
Yeah, that's bad. That's painful.
That baby.
That's where you need a freaking block. You know what I mean? Just get a sanding block and just dust it up. But so one thing I tell her, I don't know if they're black feet or what feet they are, they're black feet, yeah. Because I always tell people with showing horses that want to oil their feet, I say just take a sand block and then put some super glue on it, and then dust that back and forth.
Yeah.
Something.
I thankfully I just got her to get a beanie system. She only has 3 sides, and it's amazing when you make them do actual manual labor how it doesn't go as far.
Yeah.
It hasn't been a problem
Yeah,
since then.
but it's funny because you say that you had a Morgan horse that should have beautiful hoof walls. I shoot track horses that I could show you. Tomorrow I'll go shoot 6 of them, and I could send you every single picture of them, and they wouldn't look like that. And that's just the thing of the tool. If you use a tool properly and appropriately, it's good. If you use it a freaking uneducated swine, then it is what it is.
Oh, man, the hoof knifes, and it's probably the most dangerous thing in the whole entire freaking box. Like, if people want to bitch about a Buffy, it's like, yeah, okay, you can bitch a little bit of it. It's like, put that hoof knife away, and we'd probably all be doing a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No kidding.
So
Help us all out.
at Spruce, then all the feet are not sanded on. What do you reckon about that? Like, since you just said you'd like to sand feet, what's your opinion on being able not to sand them then? Would you prefer?
Well, I guess I'm lazy. So rather than like taking the time to get a nice finish on every foot, like I think like as much as we like to say rasp sort of came a long way, like I feel like when you've used the rasp on 10 to 15 sets, they're scratchy now and they're leaving heavy marks. So like, okay, I'm going to take a brand new file up there. I'm going to buff it a few times. It's probably never touched a foot before. I'm going to file hopefully 6 feet while I'm up there. Probably have a new file on every day. You know what I mean? It's different. You know what I mean? Like I can get a really nice finish with a good file for a few feet, and then they start scratching, don't they? So it's one of those things. Or it has to be really, really dull that it doesn't do anything. So I don't think it's a bad thing, but I think every day, like I probably take off less hoof wool with my quick little sandpaper than I do trying to get a nice finish out of my shitty file that's not working anymore.
Yeah, just trying to get rid of a line.
Yeah, and it keeps you from going through a bunch of files. Like if you're trying to keep a nice enough rasp to have a nice finish every day, it's going to be way more expensive than that worn out 100 grit drum.
Well, yeah, like I probably don't replace my drum, but every 2 or 3 weeks. I have to like repump it up 3 times before I get rid of it. And my gun don't really leak. But it's one of those things like I like a sharp rasp. Like I push a sharp rasp every day. Like I probably go through 2 rasps a week. I don't think you can get flat as easy with a file that you're pushing. A file should cut, and then like I don't dress down a lot of feet because I don't like dressing down where the nails come out because I believe it's thinning the clinch. Like it's just not leaving you enough room. So I normally don't dress down. I would say I don't necessarily dress down to my shoe, but I try and fit all of the hoof wool. So rather than neglecting to fit the foot, I just fit whatever's there, and slowly the foot will come back into shape. So I'm never normally fitting and dressing down to a bunch of shoe. That's one of those things that I struggle with competing, is that I like a slow process. I believe I learned that recently, that leaving hoof wool is a lot better than taking it, because it's just you never get anywhere faster by just stripping hoof wool away. It just turns to an ugly process. So I'd rather just trim a foot from the bottom, fit it up, however ugly it is, try and make it a little bit prettier with my shape of my shoe maybe, and then just dress down and kind of dorsal, I don't know if it's doming it or whatnot.
Like doming, yeah.
But like I'd rather a hoof wool that's round, because I've come back to way too many feet that I've dressed down nice and straight that have a dish at the bottom of it from where I stripped it.
Yeah.
So I'd just rather dome it
hard.
a little bit.
It is hard because like a contest, it needs to look good that
day.
Right there at the end of it. And like that was a hard, like everybody, like when I was on that the fucking P&W team, everybody's else's foot, they're like, man, you got to start rasping above your nails, because I did the same thing. It was like, because in my everyday, we have such wet, shitty feet. It's like I'm not. This is precious up here.
Yeah.
Like, and where I have nails driven, I would like for this to be the thickest.
Yeah.
Like, and have a strong part for this to hold on to, but it doesn't look great that day.
That's something you were getting after
yeah.
me about, yeah. Rasping feet in submission.
Yeah, because like it was at first, I'm like, why are you guys rasping above the nails? And like Well, when all the three rest of the guys are doing it, like the odd guy out, you gotta start resting.
It's tough, like, and
That's the way it goes, and it's better for the contest. It is. It's like you're gonna get scored better because, like, in the basics of horseshoeing, it's straight hoof wall. Straight hoof wall.
And that's the weird thing. Like, I don't think, like, that's where the hard line of like contest showing and everyday showing. It's like, I think if you, like, so for example, I had a pretty kind of an upright type style draft foot, which is kind of weird. You don't really see them too much, but up in Canada, and I trimmed the outside down. Like, I got rid of it, and then I left, like, the same thing I talked about earlier. Like, that medial heel was pushed forward, toe was way out there, lateral heel, like, late quarter, and, like, low heel. You know what I mean? It just changed the
two different feet.
So, like, but then it was balanced. It was balanced to the force, and it stood on the ground, and the heel line was straight. And then I, like, Jim and Mark went around it a bunch of times, and they obviously didn't hate it because they gave me a decent score. But it obviously took a little bit of like, But that trim set me up for, I fit the foot, like, I mean, I could have been longer, said Judge, which I don't disagree. I probably did exactly what I wanted to do, but I just needed to do more for them, which is super fine. I just didn't have enough steel.
Yeah.
But when you looked at my shoe on the foot, you're like, man, that's kind of ugly. You know what I mean? Like,
you had to look further. It made you, like, you didn't pick it up, I bet, and were like, oh, sweet. You're like, okay.
Yeah, like, if you look at my Master-Lot job from freaking Scotland last year, like, I mean, I don't know if I've done a nicer looking job ever. Like, it was just a nice pumpkin type freaking draft foot, just beautiful. And then I go up there and I'm like, oh, I'm going to shoe this horse real nice, and fit it and shoe it and nail it, and it just doesn't look pleasing. And you're like, so should I have just trimmed it? And that's where I've learned as a competitor, like, sometimes you don't have to worry about balance as long as it's flat and on plane. You know what I mean? And, like, it pleasing to the eye, it's always going to score better. That's why I always hate going to a contest and getting a dud foot. You're like, I could do a really good job on this, and I would still not like it because it's just not a pretty looking foot. Just like, how can you? Yeah, well, it's like walking up to your cousin got hit by a truck. You're like, wow, you used to be really nice looking, but now you're not really.
Not so much no more.
Luck of the draw, my friends.
Sucks.
You either get hit by the truck or you
don't. But it's just one of those things. Like, I think you can do a good job on an ugly foot. I'm just saying that it's hard to like the ugly foot.
Yeah. You have to talk yourself into it.
Yeah.
Like, as someone looking at it, like, you have to, like, look further at why it was done that
and you
way.
have to choose. You have to choose. What are you going to do? Are you going to go for ideal or maybe more beautification, or are you going to go for? That's the biggest. I don't know yet.
No, and it's like, in a way, it's not like it's not real horseshoeing. That's real horseshoeing. Anybody's gonna. That's how it's gonna happen every day. Is if anybody was gonna shoe that horse, they would have to decide which trail they're gonna go down on.
That's why I think side clips have become the biggest cover of anything, because you can slap a side clip on and make it look any different way you want.
They all look
the same.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't even matter. Like, they're not even gonna question it, because that's what.
And I side clip it a lot. Like, I like, you could go to my trailer and I got all side clips. I don't have any toe clips. I put toe clips on, but I grind the side clips off because I don't put enough toe clips on to justify. But that's because I live in a tricky area where they have money and they have these trainers and all this crap. And sometimes I wish I didn't live in such a high end kind of realm that people weren't so stuck in their goddamn way that let me just do what I do. Like, I shoe for backyard barrel races with toe clips, handmade concave. Just I roll in, do my job, toe clips up all the way, and I fit my side clips the same way. I fit them like they have a toe clip. It changes nothing. The only thing I do on majority of my side clips is I do rock with the toe, because I do think when that toe is getting pushed forward by the clips, if you just put a rocker on there, it just takes away that squeeze in a way.
It takes it away wanting to get pinched. It seems like
it's one of those necessary evils.
Really bad.
And in my business right now, like I was talking to Jake Engler, he's like, I got tired of getting fired from barns, so I put them on. I'm like, I've had to eat for the last, 3 years since I've been here. Like, I don't know. Like, I still think it's pretty cool. Like, I'm not, patting my own back, 'cause I can't reach my back, But it's kind of cool. Like, I say I've been here for 3 years, and I bought a house, and I have a shoeing practice, and all that stuff. Like, it's one of those things. Like, I challenge anyone to go into a new area and start again, and see how fast you can do it, or see that's a pretty good challenge for horseshoers. I think if you could make a business in a certain amount of time.
Any tips that you would have for somebody
so,
to do that?
Oh shit! Don't do it. Don't move twice in 5 years. I tell you that. That was tough. No, it's one of those things. So, like, I guess I had a pretty good run of it. I lived with my mother-in-law for fucking too long. Nah, she was good. But 3 years. And I finally got out of there to get this house, you know what I mean? But, like, the process of me coming over here, I had to have a paper trail. I wasn't even on the freaking, what's that called? The credit trail, whatever. I didn't even have a credit score. So when I first moved over here, like, I couldn't do anything. Like, I didn't even have I just got a Social Security after I got my green card. Like, I wasn't even like I was an alien. Now I'm still considered a resident alien. How about that? So, like, it's one of those things. Like, I went the hard way around. Like, my wife had to put her credit score on my truck. When you walk into a place, you got 30 grand cash, and they're like, yeah, but your wife's going to be the buyer of this truck. You just got the money. And you're like, how does that work? You know what I mean? But, like, so, like, I had to learn a few different ways. So, like, shoot, if I was anyone, I would make sure that I have a lot of friends. I think, like, I met people, and in the area, they had, like, Carlos Goni. He gave me more work. Matt Savage up in Ohio, I helped him when he had a sore back. Poor bugger's always got a sore back, but that's part of the trade. So I help people and new people, and people help, like, they're busy, they're going to turn work to you. So, like, I think that's the biggest thing. Like, a lot of people like to burn bridges. I don't like to burn bridges. I like to keep everything open. But I think everyone always thinks they got to do it by themselves. And I'm not saying that, like, you can't. I'm just saying, like, why, like that 200, the horses I'm going to shoe tomorrow, Carlos gave me that account because he was shoeing them. He was only shoeing 5 for the guy. And then he said, I'm not coming up to you. Here's my buddy Stan. I've been shoeing them for over a year and a half, probably coming up to maybe say a year and a half. Now I shoe 23 horses he's got. So that's one of those things of, like, situational, but, like, don't burn bridges. I think that's the stupidest thing. Yeah.
We were saying, like, getting help. There's a difference between, like, having somebody do it for you and getting help. And I don't think it's like you're saying, like, oh, you don't have to do it all yourself. But it's like, you don't, like, if you get help, that doesn't mean that someone did it all for you. You got handed it.
No.
It's like, you accepted the help, but you had to do something on you. Because you could have lost those horses just as fast as
Well, that's the thing. Like, I've been like you go on Facebook Marketplace or Facebook and you advertise, hey, like I did that for a while, like 3 months of sorting through absolute dog crap horses. Like, and you're like, and I was charging enough to get away from like the killers, thankfully, but like you still working for people that like you don't want to work for very long, but like you're like, man, I gotta eat, like I have to have money, and that's one of those hard things that like some younger guys, like I was a journeyman coming over here and doing that. I couldn't imagine starting to run straight out of shoeing school or something like that. I think that's the stupidest thing you could ever do. Like, it's such a terrible thing. Like, you're going to burn your name in that area quick. And no one's ever going to look at you the same. They're going to hear your name and be like,
not be forced to move.
You were saying, like, challenge somebody to move to a new area. As I say, like, sometimes it might be better to move to a new area.
100%.
Be somewhere, be shitty, drive some bad nails.
Yeah.
And then move to where you move to a good horse area that can support a business.
Oh, yeah.
And you're a new guy that has already made your fuck ups.
Yeah, so I think it's the best thing you could do. Like, Americans are funny. Like, not like too funny, but like funny. Like, I don't think there's not too many people that move out of state, let alone out of county. Like, in my area at least, like, I think my whole wife's family's within 20 minutes of each other. Like, it's crazy. And obviously you're talking to me that's moved country, blah, blah, blah. But, like, it's funny because, like, they're like, oh, I don't want to move. And it's like, well, you're showing for $100. Like, maybe you should move. Like, and then there's people that, like, come back and visit. Like, shoot, man, like, you could drive home every weekend and be making twice as much money. But then there's a reality of it. Everyone thinks they're going to move into Lexington and have a $400,000 business doing $500 a set, and then they realize that there's only 5% of the horses in Lexington that are doing that.
Yeah.
And every 95% of the rest of the horses are not like that. It's just, they might be higher end or paying more than some guy in, the desert, but like, that's just different. I don't know.
No, it is. It's like you see it all the time, or you see these guys asking how they can make more money or what they can do, and it's like you either have to be okay with living your simple life and not making money and being close to that family or that area you want to be in, or you have to move. Yeah. It's like
I want to be a marine biologist living in the middle of Iowa.
Good luck.
Shit ain't gonna work.
No.
Yeah.
Man, like it doesn't work at all. I'm happy. So I live 2.5 hours away about from where I grew up. I grew up not being a great horse owner. Like, I was that kid whipping on my horse when he wasn't doing something good. People don't forget that. Like, and then B, I came right out of shoeing school and stayed there for a little bit. I'm very happy that I moved and nobody around here knows.
Yeah.
Me.
Yeah.
Like, but I like rambling a little bit too. I would like to. I'm okay with moving again. I'd move out of state pretty tomorrow. Like, I'm okay with.
So that's one of those things. Like, I probably moved into a pretty good location too. Like, I'm right in between Cincinnati and Lexington, so I shoe 50% in Lexington, 50% in Cincinnati. I probably have 20% of my customers south of Cincinnati, so closer to my house. So I probably have more work north than Lexington now, which is funny, but like that's how diabolical Lexington is. Like, you got people trying to eat down there, you know what I mean? You got, say one person tries to find a good farrier. You know how long it takes to weed through 10 farriers? It would take like close to 5 years.
Yeah, to find somebody.
Like to find a, you know what I mean? And you got all these car salesmen. Oh, I know how to shoe horses. I've been shoeing for 15 years. And I bet you that guy that's been shoeing for 15 years still looking for work hasn't shot for a single person over 5 years. They just bounce around, and that's fine. Like, phew, it's fine, but fuck that.
Yeah, it's crazy that they don't realize like that's the issue, and should just go seek help to get better and like maintain those relationships with those horses and people.
Yeah, and some people just suck at business. I would say I'm a lavish liver. I live high on the hog, maybe more than I should. My wife's a little bit better than I am. She's a little bit more frugal, which is obviously odd for a lot of people. But if I want something, I'm gonna go buy it. But I know that, like, I'm just like, shoot, I gotta go shoot 3 horses for this. Okay, cool. I'm gonna go do that tomorrow.
Yeah, that's how I live my life.
It's one of those things.
It,
That's another very good way to do.
No.
No, it get you in a bind, man, because all of a sudden there's no tomorrow.
I know. Yeah.
All of a sudden there's no tomorrow, but you still need money. Like there's like,
That's how I was a long time or a while ago. And now I make sure to, like, it's one of those things. Like, I think, a lot of people get themselves in binds. Like, I don't know.
Horseshoers are great at feast and
That's
famine,
it.
where they're like, no big deal, I'll make it another
Yeah.
day. And it's like another day might not come.
That's the thing. Like, I've started to realize, like, I'm only 26 now, but I'm like, whoa, retirement's not as far away as it was when I was 16. I'm like, I got to start planning towards that future, because that future is inevitable. And I'm a bigger guy. Like, I can shoe, like, I'll shoe. I don't really like shoeing any more than I always say I don't like shoeing more than 5 or 6, and I'll do 9. And like, I think I do 12 or 13 Wednesday. And that's just so I can have Tuesday off. Like, I'm going to go to Spy Coast and shoot. I'll do 4 goes on Tuesday, hopefully.
Oh, yeah,
You know what
I was going to ask you.
Jason Hill.
So how far away do you live from the Spike Coast then? Like 20-minute drive or something?
I think I just, like, 35.
Yeah, so pretty close.
Yeah.
So you got to stay in your own bed.
Yeah.
during
Yeah.
that
No,
contest.
we did it for the Winter Classic. Yeah. Yep. So it's funny because we're going to a warm blood facility up in Canada. So I was like, "Hey, buddy, remember when I was on your shoeing team? Can I come down and pull a couple nags out of the stable and shoe them?" He's like, "Yeah." So it's good to have relationships like that where he's like, "Yeah, you can strike for me, I'll strike for you," and you do 3 goes a day, and you're shoeing horses that you'll probably be shoeing up there. Hell, he's like, "Well, we got 1 horse that'll be there." He's like, hasn't been on this farm for 3 months because it's been touring the circuit, but it's the Spy Coast horse that's doing, the World Series or whatever. It'll be up there competing though, not showing it.
Well, Stan,
So like the horses, they're shoeing at the competition. Are they competitors' horses?
No.
Horses in
But like, it's
okay. I was gonna say, I was like,
that.
that doesn't sound like
No,
a good
that's not a good
idea.
idea. But no, they'll just be, I think they'll be local horses and whatnot. But when you're in that facility, you're going to be dealing with warm bloods and thoroughbreds. Like, you're going to be dealing with jumpers. You're not going to be dealing with fucking roping horses or pulling horses from the salt mines. You know what I mean? That's just not what we're going to be dealing with up there.
Yeah.
That's
No,
cool.
I was just making sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no. I'd say most of the jobs up there is going to be probably better than most of the jobs that'll walk in there, but they definitely won't be cyclops. Sorry,
No,
cyclamps.
You never know. You never know.
I guess it'll be cyclops on the hinds on the last day.
oh yeah, quarter clips.
Yeah.
Yeah, shoot.
Well, Stan, a question we like to ask
Yeah, you
people
call them side.
Oh, shit.
is we ask about the Mount Rushmore, which is basically 4
The
people
Mount
that you
Rushmore.
hold in high regard and give a lot of respect to get you where you are in your career.
Oh,
Who would those 4 people
it-
be, you reckon?
everyone always asks, everyone always says, well, I didn't really prepare for that question, even though we knew it was coming.
It's a hard
First
one.
and foremost, my father would have to be number one. Like, without him, I wouldn't be here. He's one of the hardest workers I know. It still makes me feel bad for myself. Like, no, looking back and knowing how hard he worked when I was growing up, just to, let us go and play rugby on the weekend and go ride horses. Like, a trooper, just a trooper. So I would say he's my number one on the Mount Rushmore. Shoot.
Has your dad got
You
to
know,
come visit
like-
you over here in the States?
Well, it's a funny story. You actually, or not a funny story, but I'll tell you a story because we've already been talking for holy shit, almost 2.5 hours. And so my dad come over when I was like 3 months away from graduating insurance school, I think, long time ago. He's meant to have come over since then, but obviously life's just crazy, and then COVID. So you still have to be a vaccinated traveler to get into America, so that's stopping him from coming back over. But one cool story about my father, and this is why he's on my list, is that he, when I went to Stoneleigh on the Australasia Farrier team in 2019, he surprised me in England when we were over there. He flew, 37 hours just to say. He called me. He was in England. He said, "Hey, where you at?" I was like, "Well, I'm in fucking Harrogate, like in England, He's like, "No, where you at?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm at the Forge in Harrogate." He said, "What's the address?" And I'm like, "Why do you need to know the address? Like, there's absolute no reason for you to know the address." And he's like, "I'm in London. I'm driving up there. Where are you?" So I sent him the address, and he come and watched me for a couple of days shoeing horses, and he flew home. So that was pretty cool.
Oh yeah,
That was a pretty cool thing. So, shoot, definitely Austin Edens and Spud Allison. They're fucking high up there, just because they're judging me in a couple of days.
Just kissing his ass.
Get some of them
right?
brownies.
Yeah.
Some brownie points there.
Oh, that's a.
He is a bad mamma jamma though. Like,
I think I've always looked up to Austin. I have, because he was the first judge. He was the judge of my first contest. You know what I mean? He gave me lots of helpful hints back then. I think that was like, I can't remember how many years ago now, but yeah, Austin is. He was young when he did everything he did, kind of like what I've tried to do. You know what I mean? That's definitely inspirational there. Oh shoot. I don't know. It's hard to separate people. You know what I mean? When you got so many people in your life that's molded you. Like, I've got people from 2 different countries that have shaped me to the person that I am, whether that's good or bad.
Should put the Jeopardy
I'd hate to say come back to it.
theme song. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that now. I lived with a 93-year-old for 3 years. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Fucking know that one.
watching lots of Matlock.
Final
Guess you could put
Jeopardy
your
and
wife-
then Wheel of Fortune. My wife, now you say that. My wife is really an inspiration. Like, she's gone through so much, whether it's schooling or even just like her health. That's pushed her a long ways. We've gone through a lot there, but she's really what drives. She did good there. I brought her a house in the car, so we're even.
Yeah.
But no, so she's driven me a log. She's the one that makes me go back out into the forge. If I come back all fed up, mad, well, that one was shit. I'm done. It's 11 at night, and you're like, I'm just done. She's like, no, go back out there and make another one. Make something that you're gonna be happy with. Otherwise, you're just gonna be mad. Like they say, never go to sleep angry, and that's probably a good thing not to do. So
Yeah.
back when I used to, do that.
Does she
My
shoes
mother
horses
would be up there too.
Your
No,
wife shoes
shit,
horses
no.
with you, or no?
Hell no.
I thought I
No.
seen
No.
you had her out clinching with you one day or something like that.
Yeah. She's pulled a few shoes off, and she's clinched a couple of her own horses.
Yeah.
But it's not really efficient when it takes 45 minutes to clinch a foot. Nah. she could do it. She just hasn't done it enough. I don't really want her to be a fairy anyway. Like, I don't really.
Yeah.
I like soft hands.
Yeah.
So, but my mother would be high up there too. She's very passionate and driven, and focused on what she's wanted to do ever since I was a kid. You know, she raised me with good morals, and always strive to be a perfectionist. She's always done everything to the higher level rather than what she has to do. She always done more than what she has to do. That's like a good thing to focus on, I think. What are we at? 3 there. No, it's 4. There we go.
Yeah,
we're good.
Yeah, it's all 4. Your dad, Austin.
My wife.
My
mother.
You put Austin in front of your wife and mom, so there's that.
Well,
I have to point that out.
Got to make up for missing a toe here and there, doesn't it?
Oh, that's funny, man. Austin will get all rosy cheeked over it. So
Yeah, he's a good dude. I really appreciated him. He let me go down there and forge with him at his shop this year, so that was really cool.
That's saying something. He doesn't like to be around people that much.
Yeah,
so.
It's pretty cool.
That's saying something.
Yeah.
No, he's a great guy. I try to get advice from him all the time and help. He's
super methodical.
Handy. Yeah.
He's smarter than most of us. Way smarter. Like, he's in a different pay grade.
Yeah. That's why he does all the CAD stuff and the 3D stuff. That's something I always thought about. Like, that'd be cool to do when I'm like old and like to have the time to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
No, Austin's been doing that forever. He's just smart like that. I'd have to be like broken and like can't do anything else so I could sit there and like kill myself at a computer. It's like that'd be worse than me trying to figure out how to build a roadster.
Trying to figure out the computer. I hear you.
Yeah.
It's hard enough just doing podcasts through the computer. I'm not trying to do it.
No, I'm just glad I had to click a button. My wife helped me out with that though. That was good.
Yeah,
Went smooth.
perfect.
It's very smooth.
Well, Stan, we appreciate you taking all this time, man. It's pretty late at your place right now. I think it's almost 11 o'clock. So
Yeah, 11:30.
you got enough time to get out there and make a couple more shoots.
Well, it was funny. I was practicing and I looked at the clock and I'm like, oh fuck, I gotta go in for a
Time to go.
podcast.
I didn't even think of it. I was out looking for a bear all day. My friend shot, and so I was literally out in the woods, and I got back at like 5, like right at 5, and I saw we were like pulling the house, and I was like, oh shit.
It's time to go.
I didn't even look at the clock today. I was like, I've been on my hands and knees going through brush trying to find blood, and then all of a sudden, like, we just got lucky. That we
Come back,
got
yeah.
back in
I was sitting there, I was like, oh, well, if I slept through that, I would have been like, well, there's another day, some other day. Yeah.
Glad we got it to work out. Got you on
Yeah.
here, and good luck at Spruce
I
Meadows.
appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time, guys.
Thanks, man. We
Oh,
appreciate
thank
you.
Thanks everybody for listening.
All right. Peace out.